California, we have this area near me that was like kind of new. The homes were around, I want to say $12 million, and then the one at the end of the block in the cul-de-sac is like 22 million. Okay, it's a very expensive area. And we did like video footage for all the homes or whatever, right? And one of the realtors told us that like some Chinese guy bought, I don't know, it was like 7 of the homes on the street in cash. And do you think that's going to produce good outcomes for like people who want to live in California? These are all new homes, by the way. I would call him an institutional investor. So is that not going to increase the cost of the housing based on the fact that there's someone who's trying, can essentially come in with foreign money and then buy these homes?
That's what's happening in Ireland. That's exactly what's happening in Ireland.
I don't really understand what you like non-fund. Do you think that's a good thing for the area or?
On net, maybe.
On debt?
On net. So I think I could imagine people who are fucked over by that, to be clear.
Brand new home.
But wait, sorry, they bought the brand new homes or they built the brand new?
It was a foreign investor. Somebody came in with cash and just bought them. They didn't make them.
Okay, because I thought for a second, because I do think another aspect to institutional investors is their build to rent scheme, and I think that is probably especially good because that increases the total supply of homes, right? And I think that is kind of what we want to do. But like, so
I don't think there's any way you could say that this would increase the supply of homes. What I just mentioned, he bought like 7 homes on an already existing built new home area, right?
Sure.
I mean,
hold on, I'm setting my.
It wouldn't really help the home prices go down.
Stream stuff up.
To me, it seems artificial. It's almost like foreign investment. Personally, I think is something we need to really control in California because they just come here to park cash essentially because it's a really good asset to hold money in, right? And that doesn't really do anything for our economy either. It just sits in a home for 30 years or whatever the hell they want to sell it. It's not like it circulates around. It's kind of not exactly money that moves anywhere. So, but you're saying it's probably good net?
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm trying to set my stream stuff up real quick.
I do have another quick question.
I think that, so I'll say, I think the effect of institutional investors on the housing supply on net is generally positive. In that case, it would come down to essentially weighing. I guess I'm not. In that case, I don't know if there's anyone especially fucked over by that. It sounds like they were obviously people. You're saying people voluntarily took the offer for the institutional investors buying their home, right? The new homes that they got.
I'm sorry,
or that you're saying people. So in this case, there are people who voluntarily sold their homes to the institutional investors, right?
No, these are brand new homes. These are brand new homes.
So who sold them? I'm saying who sold them to the investor? The developer. Okay, so in that case, the developer won.
This guy was Chinese.
Sure, I don't really care. I don't know why I care about that or whatever. So the developer probably benefited from it.
Right.
Holy cow, my ear.
Do I? In what sense?
Care about foreign investment at all?
I don't care about who the investor is or what country they're from when analyzing the effects of whatever investment on housing prices.
Well, that's a mistake. I mean,
I care about that. I mean,
people will make it up to you, but that's a mistake.
In Canada, there was an issue in Vancouver with Chinese nationals buying up property, and we made a limit that you can only buy one. I think that's goated because I don't want rich, I don't want to say foreigners because that sounds racist, but rich people that aren't from my country buying up property that should be for the people that are, living here.
The property is still there. What do you mean? It's not like they're taking their property home with them. The property is still, it's still there. They're presumably there.
There's limited.
Yeah, exactly what's happening in Ireland.
And they're not like Canadian born, and so it's like.
Wait, who is?
That's a problem.
Wait, sorry. Who is? They're renting it because of the. They're buying it because there's existing housing demand from the native population, right? Or are they buying it? Are you saying they're buying it because that they themselves are going to live there?
To take over.
Yeah.
No, to rent it. To rent it.
Yeah, they're buying it as investment properties or to rent it out, and I think that
okay. So they're buying it. Wait, so they're not increasing the demand for the total housing stock within the country, then, right? They're just buying an asset.
Houses that someone
they're not taking. It's still a native citizen living there. What do you mean? They're not taking away houses from anyone. They're renting it to other people.
So now someone's renting it instead of. I think renting is probably worse than home ownership, and now it's driving up the prices.
That's a different argument. That's a different. No, first of all, total prices of what? Prices of all housing or prices of specifically rental housing?
Or all housing.
Why would that change the prices of all housing?
Because there's limited houses and there's limited land mass in BC because everyone wants to live there.
I
So it's a
agree.
very population dense area. So if you have a bunch of people coming in and buying, like they're rich, they get in on in Canada you can get visas, right? If you're and green cards if you have a certain amount of wealth and you're an investor. So they come in, they buy like 6 houses. It's a problem because now it's like to buy a house in those places now it costs like an insane amount of money, and it's not being bought by people, it's being bought to rent out, and I feel like that's just
but that's just a different type of that. But that's an argument of the changing composition.
I'm also non-fan. Right, so somebody who's renting here decides they're going to buy a house. Right?
Okay, one at a time, everybody. One at a time.
No, I was the first person to say I had a question again. I stepped over, so.
No, your question was asked.
Okay, Mel, then Anson, then Zerka for right now, okay?
So non-fun.
Thanks for the $10, Leon. I appreciate it.
There's an issue here where people with a lower income bracket are no longer able to afford buying a house. And what I think that the issue that creates is that when you say it's a net good, that seems to taper off very quickly the more we realize that the net good also has to include poor people who are no longer able to buy a house and settle down for the rest of their lives.
But when I say net, I'm including any harm I feel like there is to poor people in that calculation. I'm saying I recognize if the price of anything goes up or if the price of any asset goes up, the ability of lower income people to buy that asset may go down. But if it increases, first of all, insofar as institutional investors what do you
mean? You're like, well, what about purchasing power parity? It's not just when
what do you mean what about purchasing power parity?
If their wages go up at the same time.
First of all, purchasing power parity is how you adjust for exchange rates between countries. It's not. I don't think that's any relevance here. But I'm saying I could imagine, for example, cases where a certain development increases the price of homes nearby it, and that insofar
when the price goes up in housing, that naturally means more people are going to be excluded, but that's not true because that statistic doesn't exist.
If I'm holding all else equal, and in that case, it will be true. If I'm not holding all else equal,
can go up at the same time, man. It doesn't just naturally mean they're going to get excluded because the house
wages do not tend to increase with.
Can I ask a question?
True.
And I just
all I'm saying is that I think things can make things worse off for a subset of people, but make things better off enough so that it outweighs it for everyone.
Have been debunked.
No, that's not. Wait, hold on. That's not even trickle down. That's not even trickle down. I don't think trickle down economics is not like a
official theory. That's something
I was gonna say. That's not like a
today. Just on
trickle down economics is not like no one brands himself as a trickle down economics. It's just a derogatory term that people use for almost any ideology,
it's not a derogatory term. It's not a pejorative.
But
Reagan said it himself, so you gotta remember that.
Also, let's go to Anson.
Anson's been absolutely
to jump in.
Yeah. To the socialists, or pretty much all the people speaking on the panel who are socialists, which from what I can tell is non-Fon, Zerka, and Melanie.
True.
What?
Y'all are arguing in favor of price control.
Who's this guy?
Right? Like that's the definition of socialism, is arguing in favor of price controls instead of free market.
No, it's not, you idiot.
I don't even think that's
exactly
the case,
doing,
but
y'all are arguing in favor of controlling the stock of housing for a specific market, so you can control outcomes for people to basically make it easier for people to enter into a market, right?
Okay.
That's socialism.
We do control outcomes in a lot of ways in the economy, even if you like capitalism. Okay, I don't know if you've been on this planet longer than 5 years, but you just
that was fucking smart. I haven't asked my question, dipshit. Let me finish my fucking question before
Please
you
do, because whatever you said earlier was stupid.
I'm not done talking. Shut your fucking trap. All right. So when you artificially lower the prices in a market, what happens is the stock of available goods in that market deteriorate.
Who
right?
said artificially lowering?
The actual problem with the housing market is that the prices aren't high enough to actually meet the demand and provide people with what they need. The problem isn't that the housing market is fucked up, but the problem is that the monetary market is fucked up.
Oh, the monetary market.
How do we fix it? Well, we stop inflating the currency. We stop devaluing the currency.
Oh my fucking god, dude!
Let's go! Incredible. So for one, there's
an asset bubble in the housing market because people are parking their money in that market.
Who is parking their money in it?
Wait, that's not a bubble just because people are buying it as an asset. That's what assets are for.
But like, what are we talking about, man?
But what y'all are talking about is ridiculous price control socialism nonsense.
I never mentioned price control.
I never.
Yeah, y'all have. That's all y'all been fucking talking about.
No, we didn't.
True.
No, we didn't.
To be clear, I'm a capitalist, and I think I am of the belief that a lot of a lot of the stuff in the housing market is, in some sense, the government's fault. It's the fact that supply is restricted on the local level, and the fact that we have a lot of lending requirements post 2008 for who can get like mortgages and stuff that restrict the ability of people to either build homes or the ability of people to buy homes with mortgages. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably like 15% of the problem. I'll agree with that.
Okay, and you recognize I never advocated for price controls.
No, y'all have both been talking about how like it's unfair or whatever. None of y'all have like given any prescriptions.
I never even
whatsoever.
said those fucking words.
None of y'all have given any prescriptions whatsoever that'll actually solve anything.
Anson just watched the Price Master.
Do you think the opposite of inflation is going to solve this, buddy?
Yeah, deflation actually would solve it. Yeah.
Wait, how?
Well, prices would go down.
And first of all,
definition of deflation, right? That
would
solve the problem.
First of all,
assets because their dollars are being devalued on an annual basis.
Holy fuck, bro.
Anson, can we at least agree that a wage increase would also solve the problem?
No, that would not solve the fucking. Are you fucking saying price controls for labor? No, fuck that. Well,
that's exactly
price controls for labor. That's the dumbest fucking thing you could suggest, Fox.
Bro, really? This guy is insane. Who the fuck is this?
Wait, I just want. First of all, didn't you come in here arguing that the problem is housing prices aren't high enough, and then you said they are, you're saying
to meet the demand, I guess, which doesn't make any fucking sense.
So the currency has been devalued to the point where the housing market is actually trying to catch up, right? And so once it catches up, then people will be able to afford houses.
Catch up to what?
The is correct. Like the wages have to inflate also, and they haven't been inflating at the same rate because the way that the money travels through the economy when it's created out of thin air.
Bro, I love Cantillon effects, brother.
Hey, Anson, how do we create money in this country? I'm curious. Do you know?
Well, to the Federal Reserve System. It's a fractional reserve banking system we've used for about 100 years.
True.
I asked you, how do we actually make money?
I just explained that to you. It's fractional reserve banking.
You just said some fucking stupid talking point from some.
No, it's not a stupid talking point. That's actually how we create money in our economy. It's a debt-based economy.
What percentage of debt in the United States is held by private institutions?
Well, I don't have statistics like that memorized. That's irrelevant.
You should probably fucking know that if your opinion.
Why? Why should I know an irrelevant statistic? Tell me why I should know that.
Isn't it like
because let's just say we want to make new houses in the future, right? We're gonna have to take out loans with something to do that, right? Do you think money doesn't get created when loans happen, or what's going on there?
Like what we have,
Where does money get created at?
The Federal Reserve creates it out of
just to be you're like speaking the Federal Reserve creates reserves which are base money.
Already existed.
The Federal Reserve creates reserves or base money, and loans create broad money, right? That's it's two different types of money, and depending on it's complicated, but in theory, the amount of broad money that can be created is limited by the amount of reserves that the Federal Reserve supplies. In theory, and it's more complicated than that. But
in theory, but everybody knows that the Federal Reserve's balance sheet is bullshit. And so
the balance sheet is not even the balance sheet is one mechanism by which they can supply reserves.
It's not bullshit, dude.
It's bullshit.
Like highly regulated.
Like that's not really.
Wait, hold on. Hold on. Just to be clear, when the Federal Reserve does an operation that like increases their balance sheet, what they're doing is they're supplying banks reserves with new money, and the whole reason they have a balance sheet is because they're taking the assets that the bank had and holding on to it.
Right, and they're bullshit assets. They're worthless assets.
How do you know?
No.
Yes.
Well. So there are some. So there are some cases where the Federal Reserve will like buy toxic assets. We did a little bit of that in 2008. Yeah. When we did QE in 2008, we bought like we bought toxic assets like from banks so they wouldn't collapse. So there's a limited extent to which that's true. But oftentimes they did things like pay us back some of the money with interest and stuff. But like usually the Federal Reserve is buying Treasury bills. And those are absolutely not worth it. In fact, the Federal Reserve has been, besides, I think in 2022 it wasn't profitable, and since then it's been unprofitable. But prior to 2022, it was like hundreds of billions of dollars profitable that it would give to the Treasury every year.
Anson, what are one of these bullshit assets that the banks are selling the government?
I don't have the Federal Reserve's balance sheet memorized, but I do know that it is bullshit.
Their balance sheet isn't that important. Look, most money is in
our system that y'all are defending up here. Y'all are defending a system.
I just don't think you know what you're talking about.
That the assets that people have, their homes are unaffordable. We got to do something about it. This is true, right? Like people are having like
build a new community.
Just to throw
the future
I want to throw a little wrench into this. So Anson thinks that we should go back to the gold standard. Okay, so I just want to drop that bomb. I just want to drop that bomb and let you guys fight on that for a bit. Okay,
I could definitely guess.
And also, if you support the economy, consider super chatting. Okay, because I know nothing about this, and I'm hosting this incredible economic discussion. So be a capitalist, and donate to me. Thank you.
Yeah, you definitely didn't need to tell me this guy supported the gold standard. I could tell.
Well, I'm kind of a capitalist.
Will it trickle down?
I can donate to you. It has good outcomes.
But yeah, like if we can do the gold standard, then we can also look at like carbon as like a fixed amount of something, and then also trade in that. So let's do carbon credits.
How are you going to do this loan creation process to essentially like do all the development we need with gold? What
we won't use a usury system if we have real money, right?
True.
Real money. Okay, got it. Real.
Yeah,
money.
The only reason why we have debt financing is because
you're gonna go buy a home with gold.
That's not even true. There was.
And how is financing debt?
Because the government will put them out of business.
And how is financing debt?
Just like all other monopolies.
He just rambles on after his first.
We have a capitalist in chat. I'm just kidding. We have a Keelan in chat who says, "Screw these neoliberal cucks."
I don't know, man.
$2. Thank you, Keelan. Are you guys neoliberal? Because I feel like Keelan has said that about you, Zerka. So
neoliberals, it's positivism. It's a free.
In the broad sense, I'm a neoliberal.
Longfellow's arguing the neoliberal stance right now, the Reaganite stance. He's the big.
I'm not. I don't think I'm a neoliberal in the same sense Reagan is. I think in a broader, the way people use neoliberal nowadays, I fall within neoliberal.
At this point, I'm just having fun. We're all having fun. We're having a good time.
Incredible.
I mean, you didn't. It's positivism, right? It's Friedman's ideology. I mean, a latch on from it's neoclassical based with Alfred Marshall, right? I mean, it's not really something that I think it's been in progress, but hegemonic attitude for like 60 years, and it's not producing good results. Probably need to do something different. And I feel like
I have disagreements with that.
You think it's producing good results?
In many ways, yeah. And I think a lot of the issues
trickle down effect.
True.
How?
Probably. I mean, I think generally.
Wealth up, I guess, but.
So I think just generally, people's lives are getting better. Their overall incomes have generally been going up. Technology has generally been getting better.
As in like the disparity, right?
Of what, wealth or income, or of what?
Yeah, wealth and quality.
So with wealth and
that doesn't get answered in neoliberal economics, right? This is like more of a different.
So I think it depends by what sense you mean neoliberal. Obviously neoliberals are going to tend to not view neoclassical might be even broader than neoliberal.
To delete this comment.
People like to say they're different, but it's essentially based on fucking positivism. It's just Friedman's fucking MO.
True. I think neoliberals are generally going to be more skeptical of the idea that inequality is like necessarily bad or whatever. But I think plenty of neoliberals are going to favor progressive taxes, right? Like many neoliberals, probably most neoliberals, recognize that inequality, at least in some cases, can have negative effects, or at the very least, if it doesn't have negative effects itself, it is generally something that, like when we tax, for example, we should try to rectify to some extent, and some amount of redistribution is important. And like even Friedman
put this in their models. I honestly can't even think of one who would do this.
You don't think economists? What do you mean by neoliberal? If I show you papers by like economists who like have social welfare functions and like advocate for progressive taxes, like
and stuff, right?
Yeah.
He is a neoliberal. You're right. He is probably the famous neoliberal who, unfortunately, his wife went to Stanford, so he's kind of like a Chicago school guy and a Stanford West Coast guy. So he's he kind of got a little bit of both sides, but. Kenneth Arrow is exactly who you just said. The social welfare function that comes from him.
There are people have obviously modernized it and like will literally make papers about.
He's not that old, but yeah, I mean he's a brilliant economist. I really like Kenneth Arrow. He also did the impossibility theorem, but they don't really talk about wealth inequality in most neoclassical.
You don't think economists talk about wealth inequality?
Not in neoclassical or neoliberal models.
Well, I don't know what neoclassical. How many neoclassical like truly like?
Okay, I see what you're saying. So like, they usually, what fields of economics are you generally going to find something like wealth inequality being discussed, right?
I mean, neoclassical is more than just like neoclassical is like a whole like school of thought.
From Alfred Marshall, 1912. I know, I get it. I'm just saying that it's usually avoided by people who identify with neoclassical economics because of the fact that they don't want to quantify. It's got a lot of confounding variables, and the math is something they don't like to show in their models or do, so they just kind of avoid it. And if you want to understand what I'm saying,
so I think inequality, I think the effects of it,
that is right.
Who?
Ha-Joon Chang, the South Korean economist.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
A little bit to kind of describe some of these schools. He talks about this as well, right?
I'm not familiar with his work on talking about inequality. I'm familiar broadly with his work on trade and stuff like that, but not about and a little bit of stuff about capitalism more generally, but not about. What
did you say?
Yeah, his stuff on trade, international economics, and industrial policy that he's written on.
Well, Ha-Joon Chang, you're saying Ha-Joon Chang, right?
Yeah.
So are y'all done talking about y'all's socialist systems, or are we going to talk about the free market, or are y'all going to do that?
True. Hold on. I just want to be clear. Like, depending on what you mean by neoclassical, plenty of neoclassical economists.
Thing, right? Like, again, most economists who would identify as neoclassicals, right? The reason we don't have a lot of economics on wealth inequality, and I know you can say, I know there is. I'm not saying.
What do you mean? There's economists talk about it a lot. There's a ton of like theoretical stuff in it. There's a little bit. There's a decent amount of empirical work. It's a little hard to do some empirical work. So like obviously like Gabriel Zuckman, Saez, Emmanuel Saez and Thomas Piketty have they've all written a ton about inequality, right? And there's a ton of debates between them. They're kind of
I'm not saying that there hasn't been any. It's just for people who identify as neoclassical economists, or at least would take that approach, and that means like Milton Friedman's crew, a few of the other people in the 1980s that were on Reagan's Economic Advisory Board. They're all very fiscal conservative, older school guys, right? They most definitely did not include.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, the people in Reagan's cabinet, probably did not study inequality very much. But I think economics has.
So bringing it back to the point, you think it's producing good outcomes though, neoclassical economics.
So essentially, yeah, but just on the wealth inequality point to talk about that specifically, that for a second. So for one, I do think neoclassical economists, talking about that. One of the things I'm going to bring up is I think there's a pretty reasonable dispute to be had between the more progressive economists who maybe you don't consider neoclassical, Emmanuel Saez, Thomas Piketty, Gabriel Zuckman, and between more neoclassical leaning to the extent.
I can already tell. I'm pretty sure he's French, right?
Yeah, they all talk about. Inequality done.
Isn't he in like public policy? Isn't he like this? This is what I'm talking about. It's relatively.
Do you think neoclassical economics doesn't have stances on public policy?
No, but this is 2016, right?
They have a ton of papers.
Our care. Do you think we should redistribute the wealth?
2016, right? Non-fun.
What do you mean? Zuckman has this is Zuckman's area of specialty. Like he has a
Keelan's question because it's getting too rarefied for me. Okay,
oh my God.
I'm not even stoned, and it's just I
just want to be clear. Does a dispute between
it's all bullshit.
There's a dispute between these economists and plenty of other economists. For example, there's maybe people you want to consider more neoclassical who point out that when you include Social Security in wealth inequality, then inequality has not actually gone up substantially. Because that is a big wealth fund essentially that most Americans have a claim on.
Would you let AAH poop on your chest if it stopped the H cost? Thank you.
I mean, I didn't have because it's been like 60 years.
Thank you for this.
Care Bear.
You have to.
This type of economics, consumer oriented economics.
You would have to.
And then if the testicle thing is true.
Okay, I want to hear Keelan's question. You guys are too economic studied, both of you. Okay, and it's just I can't follow it. I don't know if other people can follow it.
No,
we gotta dumb it down. So let's go to Keelan. Well, no, I don't mean Keelan's gonna ask a dumb question, but Keelan's asking a question that I can at least understand.
I have a question for Fondue and Sir Care. Are you against wealth inequality or not?
I mean, inequality in and of itself is not inherently good or bad. There's an egregious level.
So you're a neoliberal.
True.
That's a little crazy, Keelan. Is the only two options
am I
like socialist or neolib?
There's going to be inequality in the world.
It's a binary.
Must seize the means of production.
Keelan, historically speaking, the times in which economic equality has been the best, where the wealthy have been about as poor as the poor, or the poor have been about as wealthy as the wealthy, have been after massive economic collapse.
Hanson, I don't give a shit about history.
He's pointing to post 1933. I'm assuming, right?
Well, yeah, that also, and post the plague in Europe, it happened then as well.
That's great.
I'm trying to go forward. I don't give a shit about these.
But what I'm saying is that it's bad. Income equality is bad.
Okay, look, we are capitalist here, so if the super chats want to ask these questions, hey, $5 is $5. I already said it, lemon meringue. If anyone wants to give their favorite pie, okay? Ag is building a pie chart, if you will, and you must.
I thought we all agreed it was cream pie was our favorite pie.
It is.
Favorite pie?
Wow.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Probably like a good apple pie? I don't know, but not...
There we go, another one for Apple.
Do you think manufacturing is integral to like a country's
You're skipping the
economy?
question. Hold on, you're skipping the question.
We are skipping the question. Okay, so fine, favorite pie. Someone donated for it. Fine. Topanga Weevil, thank you. Tyler's gone. Zerka said apple. Favorite pie. Fondue. Ask Keelan to start calling you.
I'll go pumpkin pie. I like pumpkin pie the best, I think.
All right. Keelan, probably an orange pie, I guess. Is that a real type of pie?
You know, non-fun, if you weren't such a neolib, I think we'd get along, because I also like pumpkin pie.
Oh, I hate pumpkin pie. Okay, Futoy?
I'm going to go savory and say shepherd's pie.
That's like a bullshit kind of pie, but I'll allow it. I'll allow it.
Pie.
Big soda, I can't remember what you said yesterday.
But hold on, I had a little fun fact.
There's only one pie, and that's apple pie, the American pie.
Man, we got some pecan pie enjoyers in chat, which is crazy.
Fun fact, right? The difference between shepherd's pie and cottage pie, it should be really obvious, but it's not to a lot of people. So shepherd's pie, what does a shepherd look after? Right? So cottage pie is beef, shepherd's pie is lamb.
Okay, that's great, Futoy. My favorite pie, in honor of Skibbity Tabernacle is watermelon pie.
Anson? Anson?
You can say whatever.
Rhubarb is a good pie. I have to admit. Somebody said
you're not. Mel's favorite pie. Mel's gone. Okay, well we got through. Oh,
I missed that you said my name. It's cherry pie, and if that's not your favorite too, there's something wrong with you.
Speaker, Circar, I have. Are you open to a little bit of constructive criticism?
Sure.
Oh, boy.
When you know a lot about a subject, right, and you're on a panel, and maybe some of the other panelists don't know nearly as much as you do about the subject, to refer to them as stupid or dumb, it's not a good look. Right?
You are
Not
stupid.
calling any of us stupid.
I'm talking about you, Anson.
Oh, good.
He calls you stupid.
You are stupid, Food Toy.
I mean, he did come off.
I think Anson called him stupid too, though. So I feel like
It wasn't. It
He
was
came in the
certain-
conversation calling us socialist, and
You
then
are.
fucking invited the insult. I don't
You
know
are.
what the fuck.
Yeah, but
Sears
it's not a good
catalog
look,
has been very
Circle. You
nice.
can just have a bit of patience. Like these guys all know a hell of a lot more than me.
Sure,
and
Why would I respect the
I have
dialogue
one
with
day
someone
to see
who deserve a
stupid
fucking
questions all
ounce
the
of
time.
respect from you?
Food
But
choice.
a lot of them have patience and just
Sears
have patience.
Sears
with you and
catalog
give you
has
the
been
answer,
very
right?
If someone
fine.
came into the dialogue with respect, I would respect them. But there's no respect I need to have for this.
Just
person.
because you're in denial about your socialism doesn't make you less of a socialist.
Exactly. So you
Sears-
proved my point within a second.
Sears
That's
catalog,
fucking
don't
sad.
listen to them. You've been very respectful.
Sears catalog.
Oh,
Do you guys both have? This is just a question, but Zerka and non-fun. Do you guys both have economics degrees, or are
No.
you just like into economics?
I went to school for econometrics, but I didn't finish it. I was close, but I didn't finish it.
And you non-fun?
Joking.
I will go to school for economics, but I don't. I'm 20 years old. I don't have a degree yet or anything.
Oh, okay.
Why didn't you finish?
You're an undergraduate, right?
Technically, yeah, I guess, but I just go to community college right now.
I actually know non-fun because one of my chatters likes him a lot, so I've watched a few of his streams, and he seems
let's go.
really knowledgeable in my opinion.
Sears Tower, why did you quit college?
I had a company at the time, and it started making a lot of money after not making a lot of money for a lot of years, and then I decided to do that instead.
Literal
And it turned
econ
out to be a
bro
mistake.
answer.
Okay, thank you for responding to me.
I can't
Wait,
believe
what is
Anson
it?
called me stupid for defending him to Circa, for Circa calling him stupid. That was kind of stupid, Anson.
Idiot, Food Toy.
That was kind of stupid, Anson.
Is it Testicle Johnson who's a mutual viewer? Because he's in my chat right now. He said,
very perceptive.
Yeah.
I apologize for my criticism, Circa.
I think Anson was just trying to dumb down the conversation so it was more accessible to him.
No, yeah, that's it. Yeah, no. Yeah,
I want to hear.
Nothing wrong with that.
I want
got
to.
on the
Okay.
panel, and both of these guys are defending the fractional reserve banking system. Basically, calling.
I don't even think that's accurate. I don't even think I'm not defending. Hold on.
Diagnose the problem properly
I've
related.
got a lot
to
of opinions on how
asset
it doesn't
bubbles
run
that
well,
we have.
bro.
The asset bubbles are caused by the business cycle that's created by our
No.
currency issues.
True.
Okay,
So I have issues. Wait. I have issues with the Cantillon effect that you mentioned there, but I don't even think the fractional reserve system is like descriptively accurate. Not like certainly not anymore. Like you recognize since first of all since 2008 we've been in an excess reserve system. We've paid interest on reserves, so banks don't even lend out all the reserves anymore. And then secondly, post 2020, we just got rid of reserve requirements. The reserve requirements right now are zero.
Hello, Avery.
You're saying that because they're gaming the system to make money super easy to get, that we don't have a highly centralized socialist money system where the price of money is
No. I'm saying that's not accurate. That's not actually accurately characterized as a fractional reserve.
We have a socialist system that y'all are both defending. Y'all are defending socialism where all the price
True.
of everything that we buy is controlled by the government. Okay?
True.
You
Y'all are
can't just
fucking
fucking use
socialists.
words
And y'all
differently than
sound
they
like you're
usually
smart
mean.
because y'all can quote economics bullshit, but you're not really that fucking smart.
Anson, you
The
can't just use
government
words
makes
differently
money.
than they normally fucking mean.
See, Anson
What do you
treats the
mean?
word socialism as meaning everything I don't like, and then he hears things.
That's
he doesn't
not how
like, and
he's
calls
using
people
it, Mel. He's
socialism.
just using it wrong.
Bro, how do you get money? Who makes the money?
Who makes the money? Money is natural. Money comes about as a medium of exchange. Right now, in the system that we
God,
have
dude.
now, the government has a
Did you
monopoly
think
on
we
money.
used to have a
because
barter
it's
system
forced
too? I know
itself
Adam
into that
Smith made up
position.
that fucking
That's not the
stupid
natural
barter
role.
fucking thing,
That's
but-
not the natural role, not the natural source of money. No, money is
Bro,
money
we're
is
gonna
just
trade
used to
fucking
make
bottle
bartering
caps?
more
What the
efficient.
fuck are you talking
No,
about?
Anson wants the fucking gold standard.
That's what I want to ask. Okay. So we're gonna do it clockwise, snakewise. If you're new here, this is where you get 30 seconds, no more. You can take less. And I want to ask this question because Anson is always trying to black pill me on fiat currency and gold pill me on the gold standard. And so I want to go. I have nothing to say on this, and if you don't, you can pass, starting with Avery. So thoughts on the gold system, okay?
Oh, on the gold system?
Clockwise, yeah. Should we go back to the gold standard, or is fiat currency bad, as Anson says, etc.?
I think fiat currency is bad, and I think we can do it better. However, I don't have a solution to it. I'm not fully knowledgeable in this realm of finance as some other people are, but I think the system right now is broken, and it needs to be fixed. It's my opinion on it.
John Zerko?
I'm sorry, what?
Your thoughts on the gold standard, fiat currency?
I mean, it's just
should we go back to the gold standard, and why not?
It used to have a function to it, and as a commodity itself, but like the way our financial system works now, it's just an archaic, irrelevant way of doing things. So it's just not something that matters anymore. There's no difference that's going to be held besides making vehicles for investment fucking function worse. It doesn't have the same expansive capabilities as well for like the deposit expansion multiplier. So.
Okay, not fun.
It's dumb.
I'll say first, as a matter of practicality, I think it would basically just be impossible because there's network effects to the dollar or any currency. So in order to like switch to another currency or anything, you would need a central authority to manage that transition. Like we could abolish all road laws, but people would probably keep driving on the same side of the road because of the sort of network effects there. And if you have a central authority institute a gold standard, I think most people would almost immediately try to withdraw their gold, or maybe not most people, but a big enough people that amount of people that it would create a problem because we've already abandoned the gold standard in our past. So it's pretty rational to expect that they will do so again in the future. And then I think it would just, especially in the modern day and age, I think it would do poorly. I think there are issues with the ability for the central bank to easily respond in crises and supply banks with needed reserves. And I think there are issues with potential deflation that could be caused by factors outside of central bank's control. And I think, I also think the value of gold would not be, it's not as stable in today's environment as it was historically. So for all those reasons, it's pretty bad.
Okay, Keelan, any thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, I feel like Seeker and Non-Fun are just spitting facts. Like, I don't see how it's even an opinion what they're saying. But I'll go beyond that and say that I think in my ideal society of abundance, that currency is a waste of time. We don't need it.
Okay, Futoy, do you have any thoughts on this?
When you get rid of currency,
yes.
Get rid of currency, people become the currency. Just remember that.
Not in a society of abundance.
I'd like to
use crosstalk yet, Futoy.
Thank you. I'd like to use my time to say Anson is gay.
Irrelevant. Okay, Big
I think we suspended it in 1933, and we have essentially permanently suspended it since 71, right?
Money does go burr. Anson, I feel like you're going to want to say stuff on this.
Yeah.
Wait a fucking minute. Thought it was snake-wise. I thought
it is snake-wise. No. We go clockwise and snake-wise. So we go this way, clockwise, and then we go snake-wise, and then...
Well, I turned the compressor back on. You should be able to hear me when I talk now.
Left to
we suspended it a few times, right? Like we suspended it temporarily in 33, I think, or might have been sooner than 33. We suspended it temporarily in like...
what type of snake is this?
I think after World War II, like 46 or whatever.
What type of snake is it?
No crosstalk, food.
And then since 71, it's been continuously suspended.
Shitty snake.
Do you not understand how a fucking snake works? Like, I have one in my room right now. You want me to show you?
No,
I have seen your snake before, Keelan. Not in a gay way, but in a normal way.
Yeah, Keelan, no porn bombing or boasting. Thank you.
Snakes. I wanted to be a herpetologist when I was younger. They're really cool.
I wanted to be a herpetologist too. Holy shit.
Wow. Crazy. Now, Anson, your thoughts on the gold standard.
We didn't get to watch your video of the 143 IQ lady. So
yeah.
Sorry,
it'll happen, okay? I streamed for like 8 hours, so it'll happen eventually.
Oh, yeah. So we did suspend it in 33, but I think that's actually the only...
I understand how price controls impact a market, right? And so
Wait, hold on.
You have a fiat system, you necessarily have an artificial price for money. And
just to be
setting an artificial price for money, which is called the interest rate, it causes perverse incentives for market actors, and it creates shortages and excesses where the people that are operating in the market system, even though they don't see it because it basically impacts everybody in a much more like subtle manner, even though we don't see the perverse incentives and the negative impacts directly. What we tend to do is blame other things on it, like in the housing market, what they're doing, where they're blaming specific regulations or other events.
They blame deregulation.
Yeah, or blame deregulation. Exactly. They don't. So there's a disconnect between the natural money, which gold is natural money, right? It's not highly centralized. It's
gold
not
is natural.
No, you can't artificially increase it or reduce it. And so it's out of the control of a central planner, which is what non-FON and the other socialists here are arguing for. And so, yeah, I support
no crosstalk yet. No crosstalk yet. Or let us finish. Yeah, also 30 seconds. Okay, Mel? Crosstalk opens up after clockwise and snakewise is done. Mel?
I forget what Tabernacle's at, where you keep saying his name is.
Keelan?
Keelan, yeah. I lean towards Keelan. I'm actually kind of agnostic because I think we might need more complex markets even in a society of abundance. But that's nuances. I think gold standard is a bit outdated. Like I said, if we can do gold standard, then I don't see why someone like Jansen can't be amenable to using something like carbon credits. And it's something I don't think fiat currency is necessarily bad. I do think it's overblown to the point where it hurts people even by killing people through kindness.
So right, and Tyler is
quickly.
Could you expand on the carbon credits thing? How that would work?
Hey, we're not in. Well, I guess we are in crosstalk because Tyler is too stoned.
This is kind of my point. After we do the first clockwise, snakewise, can we do a second one where individuals can ask specific people about what they said? Because otherwise it all gets lost in the sauce.
No. This takes too long already. Let's just go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm going to cede my time because I have absolutely no. I just assume that if every country is using fiat currency, and the last one was, I guess, the U.S. and maybe Libya, I'm not really sure, but I feel like that must mean something. But that's just like my thoughts. Very low resolution take.
Welcome back, Dylan.
And Anson, do you actually think there was a barter system back in the day?
Before, yeah, I mean, well, that's like a very long time ago, right? I mean, but people still barter stuff today. I've seen barter.
No, I'm asking you the origin of money. Do you think
the origin of money? Barter? Yeah, money was used because it's more efficient than barter. Yes, and people were able
to.
It
stemmed from bartering.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Wait, is that not true? That's what I thought.
He's read David Graeber.
Well, hold on. The origin of money. Hold on. Wait a second. Before the IOU note, Circa, before the IOU note, right? Money was actually silver and gold. So you are bartering silver and gold.
Was it distributed to people?
Yes, it was coinage.
Really? So a noble would actually distribute gold coinage or silver coinage to his subjects.
That sounds like socialism.
True.
Are you sure?
You could absolutely go to a bank.
Like today's coin.
Someone explain how is this not? This to me just feels on its face obvious that like in a primitive society they probably bartered stuff and then rare stuff started being used in place of that. So if that's a myth, how is that a myth? Because I just assumed that was true. So
it's a myth because, like what Non-Fon said, I've read David Graeber. It's a great book. You probably should read it. Have you read it, Non-Fon?
No, I haven't.
It's a great book. It's based on debt. Okay, so the way it would used to work, and let's say like a noble had farm workers or farmland that he had people. Peasants who would work on it with him.
There are disputes over this, to be clear,
give them a place to stay, but he'd absolutely
plenty of economists don't agree with this. But I don't have strong opinions as I have not read deep into that dispute.
Anthropological evidence I can think of that would prove something like a barter system. It is essentially an Adam Smith fabrication that he makes in Wealth of Nations. Just
obviously there was barter.
Do we mean something else by bar? I'm thinking of like, and this is again, maybe I'm being retarded here. I admit this, but I'm thinking like, I have 2 chickens and you have like a cow, and I'm like, hey, I'll sell you these 2. What do you mean that never happens in societies now? In like parts of Africa, they're still like trading shit.
Russia and China are doing that right now. Russia sold China oil for grain. That was a couple
you guys have read this one guy, and now you're saying that was a whole myth.
Actually, one of the first units
documented.
of
It happened.
One of the first units of currency was seashells, which were considered a barterable valuable because you could also use the seashells.
I'll be damned. Mel's right.
What actually gives money value is not the silver coin or the gold coin. If you put your face on it, and let's say the noble is changed or the king is changed.
Oh no, he's read Stephanie Kelton too.
Perception.
What it's made of, gold or silver?
It's a social construction. What gives it value is what you're willing to trade for.
No, what gives money value, guys? What gives money value?
The value of money is subjective.
To act on the debt. So if you are, let's say, a country right now,
that's it's
wrong.
the ability to exchange it for goods or services. Also,
that's some fucking commie bullshit, right?
To answer what made gold valuable,
commie bullshit. You're stupid as fuck. Okay.
What made gold valuable is that
Seer, why are you saying that the barter system never existed when Russia and China have literally agreed to supply each other with oil and grain? That's the barter system.
Just to be okay. Hold on.
That's not a good example.
That's still a barter system, though.
Hold on. Just to be clear, the position, which there are economists who dispute this, but I haven't read deep into it, so I don't have strong opinions. It's not that like no one has ever bartered for anything before, or that like historic societies didn't also have people bartering for stuff. It's that money did not come from the need to decrease the transaction cost of bartering. Money sort of predated. Well, so the usual story that's told that he's rejecting is that it came out of convenience, because the inconvenience is the transaction cost of barter, where you need to find someone who has exactly what you need and someone who and you have exactly what they need, and that's hard to do, and there's a big transaction cost.
Chickens to the market, you know what I mean?
It seems like a really good theory, non-fun. I don't know.
So I don't have strong opinions on it.
I think we're confusing currency, which are tokens which are supposed to represent value, versus the markets, which was often required a ledger where you kept track of exchanges. That's when you started to have markets, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure actually. I'd have to look that up. Something about that feels wrong, but I honestly can't say yes or no. And I don't like,
for example, if you have a store and you have someone working for you, you would keep a ledger to make sure they didn't rob you. Right. So then the same thing applies to sales.
I feel like this is more of a contemporary idea, but nonetheless, okay. The reason I'm bringing this central point up is, for instance, I'll bring up the Russian Revolution. Okay. When Lenin took over in the Red October, right? He immediately fucking canceled all foreign debt. All right. So what is stopping countries right now? And this is why the dollar is very strong. Okay. It primarily revolves around the idea of debt. Okay. And what is stopping countries right now from just erasing the foreign debt that is owed to the United States, or just in general to other countries?
Because they could refuse to do business with said country. They could refuse to trade goods.
No, it's because we have the ability to enforce it. So the only thing that gives money value, or at least like that allows anything to come of value, is your government's ability to act on its debt. So like when it comes to the United States, the dollar is strong and the value of our currency is there because the United States can back it. Okay.
Sirkar, you're talking more on like how governments interact with banks and stuff.
Yeah.
I think we're trying to describe money on like a transactional.
I know, even on a transactional level, or at least individual, because it didn't happen transactional. If you
money as we know it today, currency as we know it today. I agree with you because of the Federal Reserve and stuff like that. But we're trying to say that like the origin of money wasn't about,
and it comes from debt. It still comes from debt.
No,
there's no anthropological evidence to assume that the barter theory is fucking right at all. Okay.
That seems crazy to me. I mean, I'll have to look that up later. It just seems on its face that's like so obvious that eventually you have people that are going to be exchanging stuff. And I can't remember if this is Mel that said that, but it becomes unwieldy to find exactly what you want to exchange for exactly what the other guy wants. So it makes sense to say, okay, we have this valuable finite resource, something like gold or silver, and I will use that as a way of convenience. Like, again, I'm not making an economic argument, but it just feels like, obviously, that seems like that's how it happened.
There definitely are.
It's like I'm going to town, but I better bring a chicken with me in case I want to stop for lunch.
Exactly. That's why.
Yeah, right. Well, so there definitely are economists and other people who disagree with David Graeber's interpretation of stuff or whatever. I haven't. Sure. I mean, I haven't read deep into that issue, so I don't have strong opinions, but I just want to be the position that he's rejecting.
That economists don't really care about other fields that often. They often are really bad at this.
I don't know how much I agree with that, but I just want to be.
But economics, the field cites outside of economics the least of any other academic field in the United States.
By the way,
that wouldn't be particularly surprising.
First
but
coins were actually copper. They were used in
what?
Syria, and one of the first banks, you could find the ledgers associated with that bank. So that's how they knew.
That is dead, by the way.
Examples
Ledger's
of us
dead.
using coins in that example. And market.
Yeah. But I'm just trying to clarify, like,
Also, origin of money.
Seeker.
Origin of money.
Yeah, he's talking about the origin of money. So I don't think he would reject that there are many cases in which people have bartered. It's just simply the money did not necessarily come from the need to reduce their transaction cost of bartering. It came from the issuance of debt.
Is this just one guy that says this, though? The guy that you mentioned?
I don't believe it's only him.
Probably the most, I would say, like communicatable and like easy accessible position.
But is this like a fringe economic theory, or is this like are you
I think it's
most?
That's the point. It's not an economic theory. This is
yeah. It's our anthropological. Is that the consensus? Do you think that there is no evidence that the use of currency came out of a barter system? Do you think that's the consensus, or is this just some one whack job?
That's the consensus, right?
No, it's not a consensus. I can verify that. I've known that, and I've read about it multiple times since then, just to be clear. But I've known that since I did my first project on money. There is actually a very clear timeline to when we're using barter. That banking system, primitive banking
who are you
system
talking about? Who are you
being
referring to?
established with the ledger,
Like in
and
what
people
field?
using that for guess what? Stop using barter for goods and services and start using coins as an
In what field is there a consensus, man? I just gotta hear you say it.
I don't know the necessary field. But the typical way that money is explained is that we went from barter to using seashells as currency. And then as we started to form slightly more complex markets, you started to see things used like as forms of coins. Such as
Who was the first person to write about it like this?
I don't know.
It's Adam Smith in the 1700s, okay?
I don't think that's true.
It is. He's the first guy.
Everything I'm talking about requires archaeological evidence. You realize that, right?
I know. And in the field of anthropology and archaeology, the consensus is that that's not how it happened. Unless something has happened in between the time of not just him, but other writers I've read. I mean, I'm confused.
I mean, most people who explain, like you go to Crash Course, for example, their economics course explains it the exact same way. I'm sure their sources would show you.
Again, economics is not anthropology. Economics is notoriously bad at this, but that is a little concerning to me. Yeah, for sure.
But I'm telling you how we have archaeological evidence, so that would be anthropological evidence, would it not?
And I'd like to see that. That'd be great.
Okay.
The sort of barter system, I don't think anyone's denying that's kind of the system that people are taught in school. That's kind of the one that's commonly taught. It's like the intro 101 stuff. He's just saying there's not good evidence for that. And like I said, I don't have super strong opinions on it. I've never read into it. But I don't think it's something you can entirely dismiss. I think some of you have misunderstood his arguments at times. But
I mean, I could sit here and read a lot of the book too if you'd like. I don't think people want to hear that though. But
the more words he has to use to dismiss it, the less likely it is to be true.
I'm sorry, what?
The more words he has to use to dismiss it, the less likely it is to be true.
That's not what I meant when I said that. It's more like you don't want to hear me say a line here and then skim through it for a second to find it again because I haven't read this book in a while. I mean, that's what I mean. You don't want me to do that.
Mel, does that apply to the Bible as well?
What?
Oh yeah. I'm not. I don't believe in the Bible. Yeah, totally.
Oh my god!
Like how many books do they need
right now?
Like
wait, is there?
I think he's a really good writer, personally.
Is the gold bug still here, or is he?
Am I missing something? What book does he have in his hand?
Anson is gone. Yeah, yeah. What book is that? Keelan wants to know. What's it called?
It's called
the first 5,000 years.
The first 5,000 years by David Graeber.
Okay, thank you.
He's an anarchist, if I'm not mistaken.
Good question. Why aren't they all millionaires, huh? Yeah, where's your God now, you Econo bros?
Do you not consider economics to be a
style of economics? So you don't even have to take any math to know economics in the U.S. You can just get a BA, right?
That's not true.
Well, like basic math, but
BA. You said BA, like Bachelor of Arts.
Yeah,
Isn't that basically
just have to do like college algebra?
I think for a Bachelor of Arts, you might only have to do a college algebra. For further stuff, you're gonna have to do more stuff. But
sorry, I was meaning
for just a 4-year degree.
You definitely need a calculus background to understand real economics.
I know.
For
in US, it's like you can get a BA, which is what most people do, and it's fucking worthless.
I mean, I think,
in my opinion,
there's a lot of people with 4-year econ degrees who I don't think have a good understanding.
Do you honestly believe economics is like its own subject and not just a mix of a bunch of different subjects?
I think any subject can be viewed as like technically just a mix of different subjects, but it's useful to
like, how does economics, how is it self-contained? I don't understand how it is. It seems like it just pulls from too many different places.
Economics does have a lot of overlap in terms of like, because you essentially in economic, like in my field, it was like econometrics, right? So it was a little more math centric. It was statistical analysis, right? You're trying to take words and sentences and put them into numbers and put them in numbers and variables, right? And to try to do that means you're going to have to use things like psychology, especially when you do like surveys. I mean, there's a lot of other things that when you go to make a model in economics, or when you're trying to make these claims, or when you want to make a model that can do like a causal inference or maybe like a conditional expectation. The point is that it does have a lot of overlap with other fields, in my opinion, and that's why economics has so many different ones now. There's like behavioral economics, there's fucking public policy economics, legal economics. I mean, there's a lot of them. And
I think you said the main problem with economics is they don't dip into other fields.
They don't really cite from other fields. So economists, for some reason, and I noticed this when I was in school, they just think their shit doesn't smell. So they just never fucking ask anyone else to really help them. Like if an economist wanted to make a survey, okay, like I can think of someone like that fucking dude who was talking about the guy who went to Harvard, Steven Pinker, where the fuck his name is, right? He did that thing where he's like, the world is wealthy or whatever, right? And someone helped him make that model. But when economists want to go do models, when they want to do surveys and stuff, a lot of times they don't go and ask someone from an adjacent field, like a psychology adjacent thing, and go, hey, can you help me figure out how to make this survey so it actually gives me good data? They just go, fuck it, I can do it. And then they get the data and their math is good, but it's based on shit, because the survey question is like, are you happy? And someone goes, oh, yes or no. And they're like, I thought that would be good enough. Whatever, here's my math. So when it comes to things like that, economists notoriously do not use outside fields to help them get to their or come to their conclusions or their models, or when they do stuff. It's not like they never do it, but they're pretty notorious in not doing it when they should.
So Sirkar, after doing a bit of interrogating with Perplexity, to be fully clear, I think the discrepancy was that you are willing to define debt as like, I owe you a favor, which is fine. That I'm willing to accept that. But I saw that as barter. I saw exchanging favors as barter. So there's a bit of overlap in our definition. I think that's why we disagree.
Okay, yeah. IOU is debt, essentially.
So that makes sense. What you're saying makes a lot more sense to me now. I'm sorry that I pushed back for no reasons.
You're good. It's also, if you think about it, nobles giving everyone like gold currency or silver currency was just not a thing because of how expensive and how difficult it would be. And the fact that like if it had someone's face on it, like the king who, let's say like a regime change happened or something like that, right? Or king was overthrown, that money is kind of useless now. They wouldn't take it, right? So there's a lot of issues with trying to pay people out and that.
Okay, I'm trying to track though. Why then do we have ancient societies with faces on coins? Like what am I missing here?
Okay, I'm not saying it never happened. It's just not the truth to say that like we acted on barter in like a grand scale. Like it's not.
Are you
like
sure it didn't happen originally and then coinage came shortly thereafter?
Yes,
you know what I mean?
First, and then coinage in some manner came after. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're more like a gift economy.
No one has it. It's only a few people have it.
I don't think having a face on it was a deal breaker. Like there was things like coin shaving. Have you heard of that?
No,
the clipping.
Right. So it's what it's made of. More importantly than whose face is on it, because you can always melt.
Speaking of which, the cowrie shells. I checked that. That is a real thing. And the reason they used that, I was wrong about that though. It's because they were hard to forfeit.
You mean fake? Yeah.
Like counterfeit?
Yeah.
No, he's saying to put a face on it or something, right?
Counterfeit.
Yeah, he said
Took me a moment to realize.
I was confused. Like you can't give them up; they're just attached to you. Well, it might be time to go to the video. Okay, it might be time to go to the video. I know some of you have joined for economic reasons, but the video that we're supposed to be watching is completely unrelated to economics.
I do have a quick question if anyone wants to bite on it. I don't know if we should do clockwise, snakewise. Leave that up to you, Confluence. But do we think the rich should get richer? Because I'll just simply say no.
I don't think so. I think it's producing bad outcomes. There's a reason that we're in this fascist mess right now, and it's because everyone's upset.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone would actually disagree on that. I don't know if we want further concentrated into fewer hands.
I don't think like the rich getting richer is like innately bad or anything. If the rich are getting richer as a result of stuff that like benefits everyone, I think that's fine. It would depend on the reason the rich are getting rich.
We're talking about ratio, right? I think that's implied in the question.
Sure, but I think everyone can be absolutely better off, obviously, if the ratio gets worse. And there are cases where, yeah.
I mean,
yeah, that. Though, right? I feel like I'm Keelan pilled on that one.
Okay, this is
I feel like that.
You would recognize like a society where everyone has.
Well, just to be game theory question. So it's a zero-sum game right now.
No. What? If it is zero, hold on. If it is zero sum, then like by necessity, if you're saying by necessity, the rich getting richer
has a reciprocal action, yes.
But I don't believe the whole economy is zero sum. If you're asking me to assume it is zero sum,
50% of the wealth in the country, and then you go to 55, what happens?
But that's a relative. But the size of the pie can grow, right?
The absolute value can change.
I know, but you can have 50% of $1,000 or 50% of $1 million.
Game theory part of it, because it's not really zero sum if the ratio is changing, but the absolute value is increasing. Right.
The ratio I would need to just the ratio depends.
Anything being zero sum to say like it's bad for the rich to get richer. I would just say like wealth inequality as it is.
As an individual reciprocation to something else. So if someone is 50% and 50%, and someone goes to 55, that means the other person goes to 45, right?
But they could have if the size. It doesn't mean they're worse off.
If the size of the pie grows,
the pie could get bigger as well. So like you have to factor that in.
That's what I'm saying. I could have 10% of the wealth and have nothing but my potato farm, right? Or I could have 5% of the wealth, but I could have a refrigerator, a TV, a big house.
I'm like lost in some other fucking topic.
But
sure.
But the point is that if there's a point which is egregious still, right?
Yeah, not fun.
Generally, sure.
Yeah, like there's clearly a point where we can't have like extreme wealth inequality.
Yeah, I don't think we're close to that margin really, but
it's so funny. I agree with Sirkar that it's untenable for capitalism to continue if you continue reducing your.
I mean, there will be a point at which the revolution cost is there, right?
Then you inevitably go into fascism, which capitalism always tends to, and you get the good stuff.
It's a reaction. I mean,
I disagree with that.
Communism and fascism are reactions to liberal democracy.
Oh my God.
Communism doesn't exist.
But hold on. Like, what is? You guys recognize like would you guys also say that like generally, although inequality has to some degree gotten worse, we're going to disagree on the magnitude. Sort of just like the absolute measure of people's well-being has probably increased.
Has acceptable wealth inequality.
No, it'd probably be better off of lower inequality, I bet.
They're gargling in oil, right?
Agree that the shade, there's at least a point at which it's bad, right?
It'll. So again, the amount.
More to that.
What? Repeat that. Sorry.
We're already there. They're destroying our lakes and ecosystems already.
In a way that it resembles something like Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, well, right now we're there are areas where I think we're kind of like that, but I think inequality has generally been increasing, but I disagree on. I think it's relatively small in magnitude compared to probably where you think it is.
I watched a video there the other day, and it was saying you should die in debt. So rich people shouldn't spend their money; they should get loans based on their money.
Well, that's what you should. Yeah, that
economy.
No, that's because of the tax system.
Taxes, but the bank will give them a new loan, and they can take their common stock and use a little bit of that as collateral, and then the bank will not. Well, they can use unrealized common stock as collateral, and then they never pay taxes on it, and then the bank gets to make a new loan.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit different. I think we can fix that by just making the collateralized amount, make it realized, and they have to pay taxes on it as soon as they accept it in their balance sheet as a collateral amount. But
that's a feature of our tax system because we tax income and not wealth or consumption. I think it should just tax. Well, we do tax consumption, but not in the same way. I think we should just tax consumption.
Tax that though, right? Like if the bank is accepting it as a collateral risk, then like fuck.
Well, we could easily tax it. You do a progressive consumption tax. I agree.
I'm sorry, what?
I said you could easily tax it by doing a progressive consumption tax and counting loan inflows as part of your consumption. Yeah.
But this is going to be invested in stuff. We're talking about like why Jeff Bezos can keep a effective tax rate of 1.1, right? Is he takes common stock, puts it up as collateral.
Well, usually
takes it as collateral. It doesn't ever get realized. Never pays capital gains tax. He takes the loan, puts it into investments, doesn't pay tax on that.
Right.
So usually the loan that I hear these like billionaires getting, like if it's personal loans, my understanding is usually that is for consumption. Investment is typically done by the company. They might get a loan for it, but
they can do it on behalf of the company. They can do it on behalf of them. But why would it just only be usually for consumption?
Because if you're doing an investment, you're probably going to be using your company's either money that it has just saved up, or you're going to be doing equity financing, or you're going to be doing more traditional debt financing.
Or maybe starting a new.
We should have done
clockwise business, maybe, or a new venture.
Okay, we will be
I
going
don't
to
think
the
my
video
understanding is
soon.
that
I want
not.
to point out that Anson is back and he's brought a dog with him. Okay, so
it's so funny that he has a pug when they like can't survive.
Well, no weapons, Anson, no weapons on the panel, please.
Like that.
Yeah, you want to talk about degeneracy? That's degeneracy right there. It's a pug.
Sure. My understanding is people's issue is usually that like personal loans billionaires take out, and that's usually not for investment. To the extent it is for investment, I don't see necessarily.
I don't care what it's for though. Non-fan. I just care that the bank thinks they can accept it as collateral, and somehow it's not realized. I feel like that's just insane.
Well, I mean, in a sense, I agree with you, but I think the solution to that is just taxing consumption uniformly.
Do you think?
Why do you agree with me in a sense? But then I don't understand that.
Because I think our current tax system is too preferential to that type of arrangement. But I disagree with you that merely because it is a unrealized gain that they've kind of have realized that therefore we should tax it, because I believe there are some things you shouldn't tax.
Is accepting it as a risk inside of their their balance sheet. I don't know.
It's collateral. Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
Well, but it's not. When I say it's not realized as to how our tax system understands the word realized. That's what I'm.
I know that. I'm saying it should be changed.
No, so when I say I in a sense agree with you, I agree with that. We should change our tax system such that those kind of are realized gains insofar as whatever the loan is spent on is consumption. I disagree that we should do, for example, an unrealized gains tax, like generally, or that we should tax.
It is, again, they're using collateral of some common stock, right?
So what are you supposing that we're taxing? Like
whatever amount the bank accepts as collateral, which is now being guaranteed as like a pledge of repayment, right? Or it's like almost
the collateral.
Think
sure.
of any asset you use as collateral. It's not taxing his unrealized gains. You're only taxing the amount that is up for collateral.
But that is like,
I think when the bank accepts it as collateral, then it should be realized.
Okay, sure. So how is he going to pay that?
What do you mean?
Presumably, he would either have to have cash from some other.
Probably going to be lower than the capital gains tax.
But what I'm saying is, you recognize if I do a tax on just your profits or whatever, that's like you have money that is sent to you and you remit some of it to the government. If I do a tax on like the collateral or what you're using as collateral
he takes it out of his
for
account, and then he pays taxes on it, bro.
We are gonna wind
takes what?
down
Take what's out of his account? Takes what out of
this, but I need my fucking.
He would have to sell.
Okay?
He would have to sell. He would have to sell the asset.
Okay?
He would have to sell the asset, or
you should be getting a ton of dopamine.
he would have to either sell the asset or use money from other sources. That's what I mean when I say like unrealized.
He puts up for collateral. There you go.
You know, they're basically sucking Mal's cock your entire panel. I don't understand why you're not getting dopamine from this.
Anson, you're retarded.
Confluence.
See, now I'm getting call each other retarded some more. That gives me dopamine. Okay?
Tom, did you say the
I need
video
to wake up.
Did you say the video was women with over 150 IQ? Is this another Bigfoot sighting video?
The video we are watching. Okay, so again, I know some of you came for the eco talk, but just as a little teaser, okay, we are watching Andrew Wilson and Brian Atlas versus 140 IQ woke leftist feminist hater. Okay, that's what we're going to be going into: social issues, feminism, etc., etc., and Keynesian economics. Okay, I'm just kidding. No, please, no.
Okay, I got other I got other econ stuff to do on my stream, but I appreciate talking. I'm sure I'll talk to at least Seeker or more and stuff, so I appreciate it. I'll see you guys. Jesus. I don't really know. I had no clue what I was getting into there, because literally the average debate enjoyer dude Tyler just DM'd me and was like, "Hey, I need you for this econ thing." I don't even know what econ they were talking about. Initially, they were talking about housing, but it was just a shit show panel, so it went all over the place. But we got other stuff to talk about. Let me do some of this first, though, because I didn't set up my stream. Make sure to smash like, make sure to share, make sure to yada yada yada, follow on Instagram and Twitter. Okay. Fredel 2 Investopedia articles, you be smarter than anyone who's talking about econ on the internet. It's so annoying. This is real. I mean, that Seeker dude, I disagreed with him earlier. And I've actually, I would have liked to get into, we had disagreements on some of the stuff you were saying later too. It would have been fun to get into them a little more, but like people there were either just like misunderstanding his point or being like even dumber. So I can at least tell the Seeker dude has like read stuff before. Boom. He seems better than average, but still just slop. Yeah. Well, you called him slop. I thought you would. Calling a fellow, I don't know if he would describe himself as a post-Keynesian, but he's definitely like left-leaning. Describing him as slop, horrible. Left-on-left violence. Unbelievable. Soap. Bro, I don't know. China, probably. Germany. Okay. Italy, Spain. It's gonna be some fuck ass country that for some reason specializes in soap. Italy 7. I feel like it wouldn't be South Korea or Japan, but it could be some Southeast Asian country like Malaysia or some shit that makes soap as well. I don't know. I'm just gonna keep guessing European countries that I think do shit. Spain is not a good guess. I don't feel like it'd be Mexico or Canada, and I don't think it would be any country in Latin America, so I bet fucking Bosnia makes a lot of soap. Do you think Eastern Europe? I was just about to, while I was saying Bosnia, I'm trying to think. Poland, actually, maybe? Damn. The number 6, okay. Indonesia, the US. I was considering the US, but I didn't think it would be us. Indonesia, though. Indonesia and France I could have probably thought of. Whatever. 78%. Okay. Good enough for me. Okay. Crude petroleum and passenger cargo ships and only 266 million. It's some island country. I don't really know which one it would be. I'm gonna guess the Comoros, because I feel like they're the most likely to have oil. Nope. Okay, I'm gonna guess. Wait, is it just fucking Cape Verde then, or whatever? Nope. Oh man, I don't know then. I hope I'm thinking Cape Verde is the one off the like west coast of Africa, right? What does non-Afghanistan's exports look like? It's all anti-populist slop. Okay. Bermuda? No, it's too it tells you the direction, how far it is. So it's northwest of Cape Verde by 5,000 kilometers. Bermuda would be south and probably further away. Wait, is it fucking Greenland? Nope. Maybe I don't know where Cape Verde is. I am gonna guess Bermuda, because I bet it is fucking... Okay, yeah. Hold on. It's off the coast of Africa. Wait, am I thinking of the right place? I'm thinking of... I am thinking of the right place. Oh, wait, that's just way more south than I thought. I thought Cape Verde was, like, much higher up. I guess Cape Verde would have fucking tourism on there, probably, wouldn't it? But Bermuda should do, actually. They might not be counting. I don't know what tourism would be, but I think tourism is listed here. Also, you want to do academic econ as a career? Something involved in it, with economics, probably. I don't know for sure or anything. Okay, we're not watching this. I don't give a fuck, but I'm playing it as background shit while I put something on the TV real quick. We might get to it later, and I'll play a video game during it, because you cannot make me care about this, bro. You cannot make me care. You cannot make me care.
I'm sure we can make some progress, because I think we're all united in one goal of beating fascism.
People think they can play. That would be goated.
I'm not here to shame anybody for voting one way or not voting one way. I honestly don't even think you guys all have to line up behind Gavin Newsom 2 years before the fucking primary. We're 2 years out ahead of the primary. We have an exciting ideological battle coming up. So I'm not asking you to like jump up and down for Gavin Newsom. However, I do want to talk about your response to Jennifer Welch on that podcast, because I do have some thoughts, and I think I can bring a pretty good faith version of what a lot of people on Twitter are trying to say, but kind of getting muddled in. But yeah, we're going to agree on a lot regarding criticism of the Democratic Party, probably where the Democratic Party needs to go. We'll agree a lot. I'm very disillusioned with the Democratic Party as well, but I think there's some good faith criticisms of the way that you approach that question or the way that you talk about this.
Yeah. If you want to know what my positions are, and I think you're already pretty familiar with my positions. I know that like you've probably heard me speak on these issues for years and years at this point. But my primary goal especially in the interim, especially in the short term, is the defeat of fascism. I believe that the Republican Party is an illiberal party, a post-liberal party, whatever you want to call it. And I think unlike the historic inception of fascism as a revolutionary movement at a time when liberalism was failing only 100 years ago, this time we have two liberal parties in America. Like as a political theory, we have two liberal parties, right? Like we say conservative, whatever, but like technically the Republicans are also a liberal party. And now the Republican,
well, not MAGA.
Yeah, the Republican Party is historically a liberal party, but is now turning away from liberalism and becoming an illiberal party, a post-liberal party, and turning into a fascist party. I warned about this the first Trump election as well. I warned about the proto-fascist nature of Donald Trump. I thought that it was important to make that distinction. I didn't say that Trump, like season 1 of Donald Trump was fully fascist, but season 2 of Donald Trump is. And I think it's important to make that distinction as well, because like you can see the difference, right? Like there was a lot of naked corruption, a lot of things that were going on in the first.
Okay, I doesn't want to connect to my fucking network, and I don't care enough right now to fix it. Let me make sure that compressor for my audio thing is back on, so when Hasan speaks and I speak at the same time, I am 20 times louder than him. And I audio mog him. Okay. We did it, folks. Globalist in control. Kind of. Do agree Newsom was too conciliatory to Republicans, and Charlie Kirk pod really blackpilled me? I don't take the Charlie Kirk pod and his podcast more generally. By the way, am I like clipping? I think I might have messed up my audio, but regardless. Fuck. I just looked at the audio levels in OBS. I don't think the Charlie Kirk pod to mean that much, honestly. I think with the podcast, he's probably trying to appeal to a more general audience, and he's trying not to come off as super mean or whatever. And that's the reason why on the Twitter stuff, he's a lot meaner. I think he, in terms of like the policy aspects of going hard on Republicans or whatever, would probably do more than most other Democrats. So I'm not really sure I would say that, but I do think the Charlie Kirk interview was bad. I think the Ben Shapiro interview was better. Probably not optimal level of meanness or anything, but better. And he did push back at points. Okay, but we got the IEEPA tariffs blocked, and then in a move that no one could see coming, guys, we immediately get the section 201 and 322, 32 or something. There are more hoops they have to jump through with those ones, and without like the review that's required, they can only last for like 120 days, but we still got them going on, guys. Don't worry. Showing 60 key takeaways. It was a big loss for the president. The 6-3 ruling by the justices was a stinging defeat for Mr. Trump and a relatively rare instance of the court imposing a check on efforts in his second term to expand presidential power. Mr. Trump had repeatedly cast the tariffs as essential to his agenda, and his loss to the courts will affect not only trade, but his entire economic and foreign policy approach. He has repeatedly used tariffs and the threat of them to bludgeon both adversaries and allies. Mr. Trump reacted with fury, assailing the justices who voted against the administration's positions as fools and lapdogs, and suggested that they had bowed to foreign influence. Real base. Globalist in control, it's true. But he quickly made plans to impose new rounds of tariffs using other mechanisms that are still available to him, though he will do so subject to much tighter constraints on his power. Do they go over the thing here? Doesn't Warren Cass go over it, do you think? I don't know the exact requirements for the... I think it's 232 and 301. I bet Warren Cass will go over it. This is obviously good, but I worry that it keeps Americans from feeling the hurt that they need to in order to make MAGA recovery impossible. I doubt it'll have that big of effects before the midterm. So, but I understand the point. Yeah. Where else would we start besides Oren's thoughts on the Supreme Court tariff ruling? I am surprised by how broadly and bluntly the Supreme Court blocked the use of IEPA tariffs, but it could more easily have issued some guidelines cabining the authority and then sent them back to the lower courts to work out. The decision that IEPA allows no tariffs under any circumstances, by contrast, creates a rather bizarre situation, as President Trump noted at the press conference, where he could restrict trade, license trade, embargo trade, mandate quotas on trade, but never collect any tax or fee on it. That's something somewhat ironic position of the Chief Justice to adopt after he saved President Obama's signature healthcare policy by rather creatively construing a tax where only a mandate existed. But as trade experts across the political spectrum, and this is I don't know all the details, but there's a reason the Supreme Court did not buy that argument. Like they just and I don't know exactly what the lawyers on the other side argued, but it's broadly, from my understanding, like banning whole imports and the other types of sort of restrictions that IEPA does authorize are a different kind of regulation, whereas a tariff is a tax that like the Constitution like explicitly grants Congress the ability to control. I'm new here. What's happening? Not much. Polis King. We're reading about the tariff stuff from our favorite Oren Cass. But trade experts across the political spectrum have been noting since the start of the case, and as President Trump emphasized this afternoon, the decision does not have much of a substantive effect on the administration's agenda. What's up, Pastrana? Call me the penalty attack was so fucking based. Realist build. True. My cat is here. I don't actually know, is there... Technically, there's got to be some test that the Supreme Court uses to determine whether something's a tax or not, right? I don't know if they've explicitly, like, made a test as to have with other stuff, but there's got to be at least some stuff you can infer, right, about what their test is based on the rulings they've made. Can we do an import penalty, an import individual mandate? Or I guess how would you can do it'd be a mandate not to import, I guess. I don't know what that would look like. We need to give American vouchers, and the vouchers are what you use to buy imported goods. Supreme Court rules inflation as a tax on the poor. Let's fucking go. Wait, that's a meme, right? It's not actually, that's not a they've never inferred that, right? I know they wouldn't have explicitly, it makes inflation illegal. That'd be based. Where's I? Okay. One could even interpret the opinion from Chief Justice Roberts, who knew all this too, as emulating the style of John Marshall and Marbury v. Madison. Okay, let's go. Chief Justice Marbury v. Madison. Taking the opportunity to lay down principles that would constrain executive authority for all time, in this case the Major Credits Doctrine, at a moment when the executive would not be all that bothered. And indeed, Trump seemed pretty unperturbed and in downright good humor in his reaction. To understand why, what's likely to happen now, let's return to the framework we've been using since Liberation Day. Weave. You are not him, bro. Fuck, where is I? What? We've been using Liberation Day, which breaks tariffs into three categories: the global tariff, reciprocal tariffs, and China. The global tariff, the 10% baseline, is an important policy for rebalancing global trade. It also raises substantial revenue, but it's always difficult to fit within IEPA's parameters. Okay, at least we get that. Okay, but now my understanding is a section 2 or 3. I think it's 232 and 301, right? That is like, they're even more specific about how tariffs can be used. And I don't think a 10% baseline tariff would ever fit within it. deal would be legislated, and legislation has already been introduced. In the interim, the president announced that he would use Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974, which allows him to address the trade deficit by imposing a baseline tariff of up to 15% on all countries. So, little change in the short run, though that authority will expire after 150 days unless Congress votes to extend it. I don't think they will. We'll see, though. It'd be really incredible. Finally setting up an unavoidable moment of action that ends at that end of Pennsylvania Avenue. They didn't extend the Canada, or they like ruled that it wasn't an emergency with the fucking Canada tariffs. Is this the I saw fucking Phil Magnus tweet about, I think the Section 1. Yeah, hold on. I saw this tweet earlier. Florida statute, Section 122 may only be imposed when there are United States balance of payment deficit, the U.S. not have balance of payment deficit. Trump cannot just say, well, they really meant balance of trade deficit and enact tariff. What is the balance of payments deficit? What else? What would they mean by balance of payments deficit other than either a trade deficit or capital account deficit? It says only when there are large and serious United States balance of payments deficit under a fixed exchange rate system. And I saw this too, to prevent an imminent and significant depreciation of the dollar in foreign exchange markets, which is clearly not going to be the case. In fact, half the time you get conflicting messages. Either they say actually tariffs will, like Scott Bessent said, like tariffs won't actually cost us anything because exchange rates will appreciate, or that we're gonna depreciate the dollar on purpose to get more exports. Cooperate with other countries in correcting an internal balance of payments disequilibrium. U.S. balance of payments deficit is by definition zero. But wouldn't the fact that this is true would probably just mean there's clearly no way Congress could have meant balance of payments deficit as the balance of payments is by definition zero. But regardless, okay. Incredible Phil Magnus memes we got going on there. I love libertarians. The reciprocal tariffs. These are targeted country-by-country tariffs that the president has used for negotiating leverage to build bilateral agreements with a wide range of allies. The minimal process required by EPA before regulating trade, which per the Supreme Court cannot include opposing tariffs, made it especially potent for tools, and especially potent tool for negotiations, but the president can impose comparable or higher tariffs through Section 301 of the 1974 Act and Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962. Those require a lot more through process, but imposition is an entirely credible threat, and countries that have already entered negotiations or reached deals will likely recognize that they would be unwise to back out now. The ongoing renegotiation of the USMCA with Mexico and Canada is an especially important subset of the many negotiations successfully concluding an agreement with those countries, whether among all three or as two bilateral deals, that will provide a framework for ensuring fair and balanced trade on our current continent. Will provide a crucial cornerstone for trade among the U.S.'s broader set of allies. So true, buddy. Here again, a renegotiation is underway, and the president retains ample leverage through these and other trade laws and other facets of the North American relationship to reach satisfactory terms. Wait, is this by Warren Cass too? Or is this by the other fucking dude that wrote this shit? Oh my god, it is by Warren Cass. Balance of trade was seen as irrelevant. First and foremost, the agreement must center on substantive commitment to balanced trade ensures all party benefit. The WTO model attempt to override domestic policies and foreclose it. Okay, blah, 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 blah. The second novel principle for a new USMCA should be an emphasis on sovereign control rather than the physical presence of companies and a common external boundary rather than global integration. What the fuck? In the old WTO framework, rules of origin were vital. A car produced by BYD in China and then imported in Mexico for cosmetic adjustments would not qualify for the low tariffs that the US applied on cars produced in Mexico. But if BYD set up a shop in Mexico and produced under USMCA negotiated rules, its cars were welcomed in the US market. BYD building in Mexico does not alter the fact that it's controlled and subsidized by the Chinese Communist Party. What are needed, therefore, are rules of control. I don't even... Maybe there's a mechanism for subsidizing it. That seems like more of an issue with Mexico not being able to control it. I mean, I guess if there's subsidies, I mean, I guess even to be fair, if there's subsidies to other parts of the company within China or whatever, then potentially they just have extra money that they would otherwise not have to build shit in Mexico. But ugh, kill me. I'm so confused what even balanced, how we're going to protect balanced trade of Mexico and Canada, especially in the context of us being the reserve currency. But, you know, that would have to, there's no, like, they have to involve like a type of capital control that we have not had in decades in the US. I would imagine you'd have to put restrictions on a foreign investment and how many reserves they can hold and such. Okay, I just want to note section 232 tariff requirements. I thought they both of these have like oh my god. Like a review that the executive branch has to do internally within them or within itself, and then I think Congress has to use that. Okay, what does Google Gemini give me? Okay, I don't know if I want the executive order. That's not really going to tell me what I want. Okay, I don't think this... Okay. Requirements to impose. Give me Wikipedia. Okay. Article being imported to the United States in such quantities or under such circumstances as to threaten or impair national security. The Department of Commerce finds that an article is being imported in the U.S. in such quantities or circumstances that threaten national security. The President has the option to agree or disagree with the Department's conclusion. If she agrees, she may determine the nature and duration of the action that must be taken to adjust the imports of the article and its derivatives, so that such imports will not threaten to impair the national security. When a Commerce Secretary begins an investigation, either at the request of the head of the department, an interested party, or her own volition, she must first give notice to the Secretary of Defense. Commerce has 270 days to submit a report of its findings to the President. Okay, that's what I'm thinking of. In the meantime, the Secretary must consult with the Defense Secretary and other appropriate officers of the United States. She may also consult other interested parties outside of the government. Upon receipt of the report, the President has 90 days to determine whether she agrees with the Commerce finding. She must then submit a report to Congress outlining her rationale within 30 days of that determination. And then Congress has to... Do they have to approve these ones? I don't think they have to. The Congress has to approve all of them. I think it's just the 122 ones or whatever. Okay, so any measure imposed under Section 122 will automatically expire after 150 days unless Congress votes to extend them. Okay, 232 authorize the president to impose tariffs or quotas on imports deemed to threaten its national security following an investigation and recommendations by the Secretary of Commerce. Because the statute does not define national security, it grants the executive branch broad discretion in its interpretation. That's what Trump used for a lot of the aluminum tariffs, first and second term. Importantly, this cannot completely replace Trump's emergency tariffs, since these tariffs are applied by sector and do not apply universally to all products coming into the U.S. However, there's no cap on a tariff rate, so Section 232 tariffs have no upper limit. In his first term, Trump used authority to raise tariffs on steel and aluminum. The tariffs apply to imports from every country, though country and specific product exemptions have been granted. Though Congress retains the ability to overturn Section 232 actions through a disapproval resolution, this has rarely been used. I see support the Shrimp Welfare Project. Are you vegan by any chance? It's crazy that you fucking found me through DLive, I guess. But yeah, I am indeed vegan. Usually the DLive chatters are either bots or people who like incredibly randomly stumble upon me and have no clue about anything. But I am I've been vegan for 6 months ish, I think, actually. I don't even know exactly when I went vegan, because I kind of slowly did over time. I don't remember the exact day where I didn't eat any dairy or anything. But before I was vegan, I was vegetarian for like 12 years or something. Okay, Section 301 of the Trade Act authorizes U.S. Trade Representative at the discretion of the President to respond to unfair foreign trade practices, including violations to trade agreements or acts that are unreasonable, discriminatory, and burden U.S. commerce. Investigations may be initiated in response to petitions from interested parties or self-initiated by a trade representative, a practice that has increased over time. Section 301 offers a broad range of remedies and does not cap tariff levels, but it requires a formal investigative process and findings before action can be taken. Measures must be reviewed after 4 years, and if domestic industry argues that it benefits trade, the trade representative can keep them in place. During his first term, Trump launched 6 Section 301 investigations, but the only one that resulted in tariffs targeted China. Those tariffs are still in place. Furthermore, since the bulk of existing tariffs against China fell under this authority, losing the IEEPA tariffs does little to reduce tariffs on China. Once imposed, Section 301 actions are difficult to unwind, as the bar to maintaining the trade action is low. For example, the Biden administration reviewed and maintained Trump's Section 301 China tariffs, despite the majority of comments submitted by domestic industry calling for their repeal. Section 301 tariffs also cannot completely replace Trump's emergency tariffs because they are country-specific, but he could launch several 301 investigations against trading partners that have failed to negotiate trade with his administration if he wants to expand existing 301 tariffs around China. True. Have we considered that actually any unfair, rejecting any of Trump's terms for a trade agreement is actually an unfair trading practice? Have we considered that? Okay. Okay, Section 338. Authorize President to impose tariffs up to 50% of a good's value on imports from countries that unreasonably discriminate against U.S. trade through tariffs, regulations, or other measures. Oh no, have we considered that a VAT is actually... Statute allows action whenever the President finds a fact that such discrimination exists, finds as a fact, suggesting that a formal investigation may not be required. Oh no. The president has not indicated that he will use this authority yet. All right, after they strike down the other ones, we're just going to get a VAT as a tariff, and we can just use this to tariff everyone again. Oh no. So the statute references a commission, now the International Trade Commission. It does not clearly specify whether the ITC must conduct a formal fact-finding mission or simply monitor discriminatory practices and inform the president. The ambiguity creates legal uncertainty around how Section 338 would be implemented in practice. Section 338 has never been used to impose trade restrictions. Well, a finding of discrimination occurred in 1935 against Germany and Australia. No action followed. Consequently, though an available statute, its authority remains untested. Oh no. Oh no. This, I'm assuming, is the existing ones. Yeah. Okay, what are the China ones, Warrencast? China's the easiest situation. The president imposed wide-ranging tariffs on China under well-established authorities in the first term. President Biden also maintained them, and now they have been expanded further. IEEPA tariffs were adding to the total, but no one really questions that Trump can use other authorities to go as high as he might want for tariffs in China, or tariffs on China, given its status both as an obvious adversary and national security threat, and as an obvious bad actor in the trading system. On the other hand, China is where the president's strategy has been most unclear. Since his meeting with President Xi in October, Trump has mostly tried to dial back pressure and avoid confrontation, and with the next summit now slated for the week of March 30th, no one is quite sure whether he is looking to strengthen his leverage or signal a commitment to Deontay. I don't know how to fucking pronounce this. If he uses the loss of IEEPA tariffs as an excuse to let the rate on China lower, that would be a concerning sign for the summit, and it would undermine the ongoing effort to push the supply chains out of China, which depends on keeping tariffs meaningfully higher than they are on other countries. Yes, then why do we have tariffs on all of our allies, Warrencast? Why do we have 20% tariffs on Japan? I don't know if tariffs on Japan remained at 20%. I think they were on Liberation Day announced to be pretty high, but yeah, it's 24%. Trump's just putting tariffs on anything these days. Well, he put them on literally everything. So, yeah. I liked when he tweeted or posted on True Social at 3 a.m. that he was going to put some extra special tariffs on the like cabinets and like random fucking kitchen appliances because we needed those. Oh no. The greater discipline those authorities will require will make for more orderly, disciplined, rational, and stronger tariff policy going forward. Why didn't he do it in the first place? Better for everyone for the global trading system and better incentive for domestic investment. We're only going to require firmer foundations than IEEPA. It's good to move towards them. Just as after Liberation Day wrote about the need for the administration to move from its embattled beachhead to a sustainable forward path. Let's go. Incredible. Oh my god, it's a Twitter post. Jesus. Okay, do I want to... I watched some of this. it was... And I watched all of it. I just don't... I don't know if they... I discussed almost anything remotely interesting to me. And also, Hasan did talk.
It's not like they've hidden that
a lot,
especially when they were running to become the president, when they were running through the in the 2024 election season. So my primary goal is to defeat that completely. Yeah. And obviously, I also want to build socialism. I want to build a working class movement. And I don't think these two goals are at odds with one another. I think both historically and also in general, I believe that the evolution away from the liberal system that we exist under, that is now failing for the second time around and making way for fascism, the only solution out of that is to build a working class based organized socialist movement. But yeah, those are my
Surprised me that Hasan is still streaming, since he every time I hear about him, he is in some drama. But none of the drama he's in like ever is like well, the dog thing kind of spilled over a bit. Most of the quote unquote drama he's in is like within people who aren't in a circle at all. Like he's with like, you know, fucking Destiny's community, and Destiny doesn't even stream on Twitch. He's like very much in the Twitch 1%er like sphere of people. He's not having fucking Ludwig get mad at him. Or actually, no, I think Ludwig got mad at him. There was some controversy with the dog stuff when Ludwig, I think, said like, oh yeah, it does look like he shocked his dog or whatever.
Those are my two main points.
I mean, I guess I want to ask you, do you think it would be easier, do you think it would be meaningfully easier to build this working class socialist-based movement in a liberal society or an illiberal society?
Oh, historically speaking, most likely an illiberal society. At least historically speaking, socialist and communist movements have unfortunately only been successful when material conditions have worsened. I don't want that to happen though, because I don't want to live through that, and I don't think that is like an appropriate thing to move towards. I don't think that that's good for people. I think it's very violent and very deadly. I don't want the material conditions to deteriorate. But if you're asking me, like, honestly, from a historical perspective, no,
I'm basically asking. I'm basically just asking.
Are we? I don't actually know the percentages here or anything, but are we defining socialists as like only the illiberal ones? Because I don't know if Hasan would count like almost any of the like democratic socialist people who have been part of liberal democracies historically as like real socialists. You might just say they're actually still fucking liberal sock dems. So
if we get to a 2028 and like I guess we can get into the hypothetical of Newsom versus Vance, but it's not even about that. They're kind of just stand-ins. I don't even want to concede who our nominee is going to be 2 years ahead, but I think there would be a meaningful difference in building a pro-labor movement under a JD Vance presidency, which would be much harder, versus a Gavin Newsom presidency. I mean, JD Vance's entire career has been trying to step on top of workers. He wants to.
I agree.
He endorsed Project 2025, which literally wants to bring child labor laws back to 1938. He's fundamentally illiberal.
Based. I wish. Hold on. I just want to see who. Okay, this kid's good. They are actually watching that fucking Andrew Wilson video. Oh, wait, I was just on that. I was just seeing if he did. Well, looks like he does do like econ debates or whatever, because he has open debates for at least the Trump administration thing I saw, but I was just seeing what his content was.
Let you organize. I mean, like a lack of organization is part of not living in a liberal society, right? They will squash that. They will kill communists. They will kill socialists. That's what they did in other fascist societies. They killed socialists and communists. Meanwhile, Gavin Newsom, however insufficient you may think he is, and this is not an endorsement of Gavin Newsom, I'm just trying to illustrate my points of, the different realities we could enter. However insufficient you think Gavin Newsom is, he would allow for a really strong labor movement. He would allow for you guys to at least, organize, and he would probably communicate with you guys.
First of all, I don't even think you guys. I think you're a part of this as well. You're not against like organizing a labor movement, right? But
no,
also, also, can you crank up your volume a little bit on your end? Because I maxed it out, but people still are having a hard time hearing you.
Yeah, my bad.
No, it's all good. As far as like what's better rooms for organizing, it's not even a necessary part of this discussion because I know that the reason why I'm saying it's not a necessary part of the discussion is because given the option between Gavin Newsom and JD Vance, I'm not saying that Gavin Newsom is going to be a situation than JD Vance. I understand and agree with, in theory, the harm reduction narratives. My argument is always around doing away with harm reduction narratives because the harm reduction narrative has led to 2 spectacular failures thus far, both in 2016 and also in 2020. And as far as like playing hardball with Democrats who don't want to listen, who still want to hold on and maintain this like harm reduction narrative, who still say that they want to appeal to this like mythical moderate voter who's outside of who isn't a normal Democratic Party voter. Like,
oh my God,
they want to turn to the Democratic Party. I'm willing to play hardball with them and say like, look, I'll hold my vote back. But the reality of the matter is, if you're asking me sincerely, like, do you think that Gavin Newsom is going to be better than JD Vance? Of course. I mean, this is not something like Kamala Harris is objectively going to be better than Donald Trump. The miscommunication around this comes in large part due to me openly saying like it's out of my hands at that point, because that was the second part that I mentioned. It's openly out of my hands at that point, and there's no way for me to overcome the way that the party is communicating what they want to do, and the fact that a lot of people hear that and immediately go, "Oh, this guy, he wants the Republicans to win." I don't.
This is why everyone should just adopt the utilitarian view, or the utilitarian. It's not even strictly utilitarian, obviously, but you just talk about things in using the language of just expected value. Because when Hasan is saying harm reduction, he's meaning like only what he's saying is really like the rhetoric of harm reduction and the shit that liberals do. That is, as a whole, actually not reducing harm. That is negative expected value, because he thinks, you know, it makes the Democrats. Well, I don't know the exact argument he makes, but he just said he makes the Democrats weaker, makes them lose or whatever. It's responsible for 2 catastrophes so far, which I'm assuming he means both the elections of Trump or whatever. And I think that I disagree with that view, but that is a different type of, or that is a different argument than when it comes just at the end of the day, who should you vote for? The harm reductionist view is you should vote for the person who does the least harm. But he seemed to be totally unwilling to admit that for a long ass time.
Yeah, I don't think you want the Republicans to win. I don't think that at all. And here's where we agree on, actually. So I keep hearing you say that you don't want Democrats to run on the harm reduction narrative in 2028. And I totally effing agree. If we're running on a harm reduction narrative in 2028, we have failed somewhere massively. We want to build an exciting, forward-looking message that can turn out not only our base, but Americans who have been struggling. We need to have something that is not just us unified to our opposition of Donald Trump. For the past decade, we have been defined by our opposition to Trump, and we need something more exciting. So I agree. We should not run on a harm reduction narrative in 2028. But like what you just said, how you just worded your statements, was not how you worded it when Jennifer Welch asked you that question.
No, I would vote third party because it's out of my hands at that point.
No, you said at that point it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, at that point, what I meant is it's out of my hands, which is the argument that I made with Kamala Harris after like urging the campaign to listen to the warning signs that the people were giving them about their reluctance to address Gaza in a meaningful way, like signaling that they would truly be like an anti-war a party, even though Donald Trump is like a fucking warmonger, trying to get them to communicate that. That there are meaningful differences between their design overall, not leaning in and not conceding on the white nativist anti-immigrant narratives, knowing full well how devastating Trump's mass deportations were going to look like. I poured hours and hours and hours of commentary into this, thousands of hours of commentary into this, and it's always reduced back to whatever like reasonable soundbite that people can cling on to say, oh, we got him. He's a third party guy.
What do you mean it's out of, well, you said you would vote third party, but what do you mean it's out of your hands?
Oh, perfect.
Like you mean like we would lose at that point?
I don't know if we would necessarily. I don't know if we would lose. JD Vance is uniquely uncharismatic. But
we saw that today.
I mean, we see that every day, right? I mean, he's a fucking disaster. I still think that Gavin Newsom is particularly weak against JD Vance, unfortunately. So I don't know. I feel like it would still be a toss-up at that point, partially because while JD Vance is not capable of holding the Trump coalition together, I don't even worry about JD Vance as much necessarily. I don't really worry about Marco Rubio. I worry about Tucker Carlson. I think Tucker Carlson has he's the real torch carrier of the MAGA movement. I don't even know if Donald Trump recognizes that yet or admits that personally, but I think it's there. And
I don't think that's true, by the way, but I've not heard anyone else hold that position even. But again, I think everyone should just adopt the expected value framing, okay? Because the difference between the what should you do at the end of the day voting booth thing versus the more general rhetorical point. And it can be, I think people conflate the meaning of the harm reduction thing there. Okay, but I don't care. Okay, we're talking about boring tech stuff. Okay. Jesus, I just want to do my econ shit. And everyone all up in my lib left drawer jock. Okay. Okay. This shit was some of this shit was crazy to me because every fucking headline and tweet was about Zoran raising property taxes 9.5%, and my initial reading of that was simply percentage points rather than percent, but I think it actually is just percent, which is not that crazy. Well, I think we're wants to talk. What up?
Hello. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good.
Okay, so I have this odd theory about Republicans. Basically, I'm trying to like square a circle here. I don't understand how we've come to a point where there is a literal state of taxation without representation by the President of the United States, and the party that is nominally supposed to be anti-tax and wears the aesthetic of the founding fathers so much embraces wholesale the idea that a person who brands himself as a king, Donald Trump, shitting on the American people, like, at the No Kings protest, for example, can just levy a tax without any say-so from Congress. And when the ruling comes down, the argument is, oh, it's just like his embargo power. It should be more expansive.
Right. I mean, I think it's all people. I don't want to say people generally. I don't want to generalize, but like many people in the Trump movement just don't have those type of principles anymore. I think it's all just like the populist rhetoric that like sold them on Trump and stuff. It's not ever particularly serious analysis about their principles and whether or not it aligns with the president doing a universal tax increase or unilateral tax increase. It's all just the populist rhetoric of we're going to make America great again by having a bajillion manufacturing jobs, and we need to make sure everyone can go to college and blah 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 on one income. It's all just that like populist rhetoric, and people don't actually.
I can believe people could fall for that rhetoric, but it's like so frustrating when you've got this kind of rhetoric coming from a guy who manufactures his merchandise in China. This guy who cuts Medicaid so he can give tax cuts to the rich. Like, this is like the anti. Like, it's like, oh, the rich have too much power in this country, and this guy is literally, like, he's just ostentatiously rich, like to a point that it's like obnoxious and unseemly, basically just.
Well, they don't. I mean,
American people.
Yeah, MAGA doesn't always lay into they lay into like a different type of like anti-elite populism. Like they're anti like deep state and like anti-bureaucratic. And yeah, that's a part of it now too, unfortunately. But yeah, they lay into that stuff. They don't lay into the anti just like billionaire populist stuff as much.
Man, I'm not sure. Like, here's a question: can a democracy survive if, let's say, 20% of the population is devoted to its destruction?
I mean, it in principle, yeah. I think there's a reason we have higher bars for like constitutional amendments and stuff. It's because like certain bills need 2/3 of the Senate or whatever to agree on. It's because we want to make sure there's checks for doing crazy shit, that it can't just be 51% or an even smaller segment of people controlling that much shit. But it's hard, and I don't know. I think the issue with the current 20% of people who are like diehard Trump supporters or whatever, I think it's more broadly just the like unitary executive theory stuff, and that we might like technically still be able to be a democracy as conventionally defined with almost fully unitary executive, or I don't know. I don't know how to phrase it. An executive that now has the powers of the full scope of unitary executive theory, but we'd be a weaker democracy, and I definitely think that is something that
they're deliberately
we're heading towards.
A weaker democracy is kind of the problem we're having, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Like they want a unitary executive not on the principle that a unitary executive is, preferable form of government. They want it so that they can centralize power in the Republican Party. And so they're institutionally engineering outcomes to that effect, right? When Donald Trump loses an election, it's a rigged election. When Donald Trump wins an election, it's too big to rig. They're literally having it both ways. They don't actually have a theory of mind, and neither does Donald Trump. It's a coup d'état. In effect, I think the Republican Party has been essentially waging an institutional coup on the government, like to assert, centralized power.
Well, yeah. And like I'm not disagreeing with that or anything. I don't think you think I am, but
no, I don't.
I'm just saying, like, that is like from the 20% of the population, or how many ever people like are kind of diehard MAGA supporters or whatever. I think that is what we're gonna get to. It's less likely that we're gonna get to just like the end of democracy. Like, even if this stuff continues, it's just gonna be it's gonna be a weaker democracy. It's gonna be a much more powerful executive branch, but it's still gonna be, I think, at least in principle, possible for democracy.
Where do you see this movement going in 10 years? Like, do you think you're gonna go away?
Not necessarily. I think it'll probably be weaker without Trump, but
maybe, but that doesn't mean it. Like, it doesn't mean they're not going to have successes in the future. Like, I don't think Trump necessarily equals success, right?
I agree.
And like a broader problem is like, can we survive this chipping away at democracy over time? Like, they will be very sustained in their assaults against our institutions.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, like I said, we're gonna get to a weaker democracy. I think it's more likely that the things they're gonna primarily chip away at is the sort of independence of the bureaucracy and the independent agencies we have, rather than like just straight up the end of democracy itself.
Well, I feel like the destruction of the independence of those agencies is how you engineer the end of democracy. That you get a Justice Department that has an enemies list.
I think it makes it easier for sure. I'm just not sure you could do it to a big enough capacity for me to say that we would like literally just that alone would end democracy. And then I would imagine after Trump or whatever, the movement gets weak enough that you're not going to see any like super crazy shit. That could be wrong.
What do you think is going to be the outcome of Donald Trump not paying back the tariff money?
I don't think
there's got to be like political penalties for it, right?
What do you mean not paying it back? Not paying it back to ordinary people, or not paying it back
to? Basically arguing like, well, they didn't say I had to resolve it. We're going to be in litigation for years. It's like we're not.
Well, the issue with the refunds is that if they order it, they're going to order it to be repaid to who like bears the statutory incidence of it, which is mostly corporations. Pretty few people like directly import something, and therefore like very few people like actually directly send money to the U.S. Treasury from. But when they pay a tariff, it's mostly companies who send the money to the Treasury, and then they pass most of that cost on to consumers. So if we get the refund, which is probably more likely than not that we're going to get the refund, but it'll mostly be corporations who actually sent the money to the Treasury. So either way, I don't think it's going to affect people that much. It's not going to be super salient.
No, I don't think it would be super salient. My concern is more like, can checks and balances survive something like that? Like the president's being ordered to, like, if he's basically been told he stole from the American people. Like, these were illegal tariffs, you stole, and he's basically saying we're not going to pay back. Like it seems like it's a violation of the court order. Like, I'm sure that itself is going to be litigated, but it would seem weird to me that the Supreme Court would say these taxes were illegal and you get to keep the money. Go you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think it's more likely than not that we'll get a refund. I just don't think it's going to have that big of political effects either way because of who the money would actually go to.
Yeah. I think we're going to do in the midterms.
Probably pretty well. It's like I could see things going not like great if there was like some like high profile like illegal immigrant murdered someone and all these Democrats are saying abolish ICE or something, but I think even with that we'll still probably do decently.
Where do you stand on that? Like, I have a hard time trusting ICE as an institution anymore. Like, I'm not sure it can survive as an institution after this.
Yeah, I think at least in principle, I probably support like getting rid of ICE and just transferring any responsibility they have to either Customs and Border Patrol or some other agency in the DHS.
Bring back the INS. What was wrong with the INS?
I don't know. I really don't know why we did so much stuff with the DHS after 2001 or whatever. But
we're worried about some holes in the system.
Yeah, but it seems like we have
God, could you imagine how fucked we'd be though if Donald Trump was president on 9/11? Like them concentration camps would like triple in size.
Don't you know he was on the ground. He was helping so many people there. Like a good president. You know what Biden would have done? I bet Biden was in his cozy office, not helping the people.
He was up there throwing the paper towels. It's like, I got you.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think in principle, I would support abolishing it. I don't know for sure if rhetorically it's the best thing to do. I think it's probably not horrible, but I think there's probably a good way to do it, but I do think it's risky.
I think a problem we have is we let Republicans define the scope of the debate way too much. Like every time we do talk about abolishing ICE, we should just play the shooting of Renee Good over and over again. Like milk that for what it's worth, which sounds like awful, but you know, like let's recognize the world we're living in. Like it's Lincoln Riley's and Renee Good's now.
Yeah, I mean,
which is kind of
I would imagine you would hold issue to or whatever, but I think a lot of the issue with that stuff is just the media environment, and I don't know how to fix a lot of that stuff.
Well, ultimately corporation, and this is the sad thing, I think ultimately this fix for this is having strong corporations, like strong institutions that can counter Republican shitfuckery like this on the federal level.
There's a degree to which
You're crazy.
Well, I believe some of that and stuff, and it's nice to have like some ability for like even like corporate lobbying insofar as like they try to stop any of the insane shit with like the Federal Reserve stuff, or and I do think there's a chance that Trump reacted to like the bond market on certain things with regards to tariff and with regards to his Federal Reserve picks and stuff and how far he's willing to go with Fed independence. But like all these billionaires, okay, as much as I will defend my billionaires, all right, they all just like want to take advantage of shit for themselves. Like they all just want like exemptions for their own shit, and they don't want their competitors to have the same thing. And that type of rent seeking is bad. Yeah.
Kind of destroying the country right now.
Wait,
yeah.
Why are we defending billionaires? It's crazy.
Why are we what?
Why are we defending billionaires? It's crazy.
I'm defending corporations because I think they would be the first line of defense to stand up against things like manipulating the Federal Reserve or like instituting tariffs on the American people without like say so from Congress. So they're an institutional check
against like very specific money things though, so it doesn't seem like particularly important, right?
Yeah, I think there's competition, but I would argue even on a cultural level, it's valuable. You know, like Target having Pride commercials is good for the country, but now we've like been so kowtowed into like being afraid of gay people and talking about slavery and like all of this stuff, and it just doesn't feel like, you know, like bring back the pandering, because we're actually like a more progressive society when corporations pander to liberal values.
Yeah, but the problem is when that pandering is just shallow, that like the reversion of it is worse than the initial good thing, right? So it was worse for Target to be like, we support trans people, and then be like, oh, okay, there were some threats and people weren't happy. Well, okay, well, fuck that then, just get rid of it. Like that's worse than if they just didn't do anything at all.
I'm not sure I agree with that. I think it brings visibility
to give in to terrorism, right?
Yes, I mean that is an issue, but the issue that you're overlooking is that messaging could be convincing to people who do come away with an interest in the plight of trans people and who do have a form of advocacy, because an institution they frequent put it on their radar in a way it never was before. Like that's valuable.
But to do that, right, you'd have to have the counterpositive message being spun like aggressively of like, you know, trans people are not abusing kids and whatever, right? And they just didn't really show the gumption to want to stand behind that. So instead, you just have like, look, they're making tuck friendly children's bathing.
That would be an odd debate for them to get into. You must admit.
Well, yeah. So I don't know. Like they could not have that argument, but like I don't know. Something needs to do that, or you could just do that. Whatever. Like just have the Target Twitter account just go an ape shit. Whatever. Who cares? Or don't, and just stay the fuck out of it, because the problem is their critics are unbounded, but they are bounded, and that they ultimately just care about like making money, not some like sincere interest in like the well-being of a minority group.
Making money and having a sincere interest can go hand in hand. There's nothing wrong with that in a capitalist society. Like I want there to be a financial interest in improving the well-being of my fellow man. Like that's a good way to.
Well, yeah, but the problem.
Yeah, you should have the right attitude. I agree. You should want that as well, and you should signal for that. But
I'm saying,
there being a financial incentive to be.
If it costs money to do the right thing, I'd want people incentivized to do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but like that's the thing, right? Like sure, I don't have a problem with people making money doing the right thing, but like I don't want them to do the bad thing if it also makes the money. And the problem is if the money is the main thing you care about, then that's problematic. I think you could just reform corporations.
But I think
it's a reflection of the culture. What's up, non-front?
I was gonna say, like, I think part of the point of the quote unquote defending the corporation billionaires things or whatever, right, is that it's in their interest, even monetarily, to protect things like Fed independence and to get exemptions for their tariffs. And now there are issues with like rent seeking there, where they seek to like get stuff explicitly for their country that still screws over, or their company that screws over everyone else in the country still. But I think having that there is, at least can be a good thing.
Yeah, I guess the problem is like you can have like Fed independence protected, right? Which I guess is important for some corporations, but like the same judges who like I guess protected that Fed independence, or at least you have like the conservative justices or whatever, who at the same time got rid of the oversight bodies and the independence of the FTC and the SEC, right? Which are going to create like different financial insecurities, just not like the same type and the same degree, but it's the one that lets them, profiteer, as opposed to the one that like destabilizes the market. Profiteer at the expense of like Americans and stability, but in like a different way than the Fed,
Well, I'm just saying, I think like the Fed independence is not just important for corporations. I think it's important like for everyone overall, and it's going to be the same thing with some of the things with tariffs and some. Most corporations are going to be for deregulation and shit, but there are broadly things that I think are kind of pro growth and pro just economic efficiency generally, that are in corporations' interest to either protect or try to get changed, that are also in everyone's best interest, and therefore having the billionaires and the evil corporations being able to like lobby the president to some extent is going to produce some pro-growth reforms or some good outcomes, and it's going to serve as some check that the president can't just like do crazy, insane shit. With regards to the
externalities of having billionaires and rich people are worse than the benefits that you're describing, because you're talking about this nominal way in which they increase stability, but like you have them propping up all these like alternatives to like academia and shit, like all the nonprofits and stuff, and like funding news networks and weird freaks like Ben Shapiro and whatever, right? And they just put all their money into these ideological projects, which they can only do because they have the money, because our regulations let them do this shit, and it just pollutes our information ecosystem and makes people's brains fucking rot. And then we end up in this weird fascist hellscape we're currently in.
I think so.
Like, if you just don't have them with that power, or you create like a real like government funded like alternative, I should say alternative, but like I think like news should largely be for like nonprofit, not a for-profit entity, and like funded by the government and like with like perpetual grants that like can't be revoked by the president on a whim, And there are ways to like set up these things with like more durability.
I was just I was trying to get the. Well, so first of all, I was just trying to get the broad point across that, like, I'm simply saying, because I think you were misunderstanding a bit the position of the billionaires' defense or whatever it in a sense that I was just pointing out, like, this is kind of one of the checks that I think that they can have on the executive or whatever. I do think the sort of net externalities from billionaires are probably positive. I'm not sure how salient the effect is of billionaires on like the more general state of our democracy and on things like whatever super PACs they spend money on. And like there's some evidence you can find, like, I mentioned pro-growth reforms or whatever for a reason, because, there are papers that you can find, like, for example, on the state level, after Citizens United, like you saw more pro-growth reforms that not only benefited capital, but like also benefited labor. And it didn't necessarily even help one party over another. It helped, it just increased political turnover overall. Like turnover between parties overall.
And, like having PACs increase like political turnover, like people getting primaried by money more often or something.
It was looking at turnover between parties, and it wasn't specifically about PACs. I think the identification was just like increased political spending generally after Citizens United. I don't think it was like specific to PACs, but I can find that paper. I do think billionaires should donate more of their money, though, to effective charities, but...
You think they should? Or...
They should donate more of their money to effective charities, yeah.
Yeah, we can just make them do donations through taxation and then follow that money to the stuff we want to do, like as a democratic population, instead of, what some rich asshole wants to do.
Well, so I think that I'm in favor of that to an extent too. I just think the type of tax is gonna matter a bit there, but like I'm just saying, absent that might be more optimal. Again, probably depending on the type of tax, but I think it is sort of a personal failing of billionaires that they don't donate more of their money to effective charities. I'm not saying it's necessarily like the optimal position to not tax them and donate to charity.
Gentlemen, I appreciate chatting with you, non-front. Just wanted to catch up for a bit. I'm a bounce. You guys have a good night.
Oh, okay. Wait, do you stream or anything?
No. It ain't about that life.
Repeat the last bit, sorry.
I said not about that life.
Oh, okay. Fair.
So I'm a lawyer, whatever. So I pay attention to a lot of like legal stuff, and I kind of more so look at like how money was used to like influence our law over time, and then more or less curtail everything good that came out of like the Warren Court, and how much money, particularly like reactionary politics funded through money accumulated through typically corporations, was used to like warp that process and then manipulate our politics. And
I just don't see I haven't. There are things that I could see that would conceivably update me, but like I just haven't seen like well identified evidence that it has had a substantial effect. A lot of the stuff with regards to that, it's not like I find just kind of more I don't know, vibes rather than like sort of clearly identified evidence. And I think the more clearly identified evidence we have.
Evidence do you think would be like strong or whatever?
Like
what kind of stuff you're looking for?
Like a paper, preferably published, like and been through some type of peer review, but like a paper by someone who knows what they're talking about, that is like using data or to like create either some type of synthetic control or some type of difference, or is it just some type of even event analysis of the effects of political spending or the effects of Citizens United on X outcome. And I just haven't seen like well identified stuff for that.
So like I wouldn't just stop at like only like Citizens United, right? So like there's plenty of cases that involve like money in politics before Citizens United that made our situation like very untenable. Like restrictions on publicly financing elections. Supreme Court limited that when I think it was Arizona wanted to have like some funds matching. So when a privately funded candidate was outspending some other person, they would get like certain amounts of funds in order to like be able to compete, not in an even field, but like something comparably. And the Republicans challenged that and got that shut down, so you couldn't have like non-privately funded candidates. And the result is like elections in this country, like with a few exceptions of like people like Mamdani or whatever, which honestly that even has a funds matching thing in New York City anyway. But like,
but I'm not like I'm not saying Citizens United is the only thing that matters or anything. I'm simply talking about like the identification of it. Like how am I to, like, for whatever outcome we observe that we think are a result of money in politics or whatever, how am I able to determine whether or not that's from money in politics or from a bunch of other factors? It seems like you should probably try to have some identification strategy
if you pull the money out and the same things happen. That's the problem, right? So I'll give you like one case. It's Ted Cruz v. FEC or whatever, which is a very recent case, maybe like 4 years ago, which basically allowed a candidate to repay back themselves loans in excess of $50,000 with contributions received after a campaign. So that's the important part. It's money that they received as donations after the election has already been decided. So people know they're a winner. During the campaign, they like loan themselves. They personally loaned their legal entity of their campaign money in excess of $50,000, and then now they're trying to pay themselves back with money afterwards. And like in the record in that case is like the politicians would regularly like call these like apology donations and stuff. So people who donate to them afterwards, who like donate to their opposition and stuff. So like it's effectively bribes, right? Because when you're paying back money that's coming out of when you loan yourself your campaign money and then you're paying yourself back with interest, then like this effectively just turns into a bribe, right? Because if it becomes before, there's one argument if it occurs, before an election, that you're trying to get them elected. But when it's coming after the election, you don't really have that argument you're trying to get them elected. So you're trying to like buy influence, right? Which is how politicians readily receive this. And so that's very
you might have to explain that mechanism again. I don't understand how necessarily they'd be buying influence there, or I don't understand necessarily. So what's the mechanism by which they are you saying it is like Ted Cruz's PAC or whatever, right? That's giving a loan to himself, right, or to his PAC.
So Ted Cruz, the individual, was loaning Ted Cruz for president or whatever the fuck. Or I guess this was his Senate campaign, actually.
Sure.
So he loans Ted Cruz for Senate. I think it was $60,000. And then after the election, he paid himself back with donations received after the election. The election. Yes. So you can imagine a situation where a campaign is, which is very common for campaigns to be at a deficit after the election, right? Where they like owe money. And one of the entities they can owe money to is themselves. So
sure.
If you're donating after the election, well, what am I paying you for, right? And it's like, well, I'm putting money to, like if you're in that loan situation, the answer is I'm putting money directly in your pocket, right? Because if you didn't have the money before the campaign, then, like you can't get that back, right?
Sure. I don't know. I would imagine there might be. I mean, directly in your pocket, it has to go to the money goes to the PAC first, technically, right? And then it would have to go to whoever they are in debt to. But and like I'm not going to say there are no cases where politicians have bad incentives or cases where a politician or like some amount of the corruption is enabled or whatever. I just think I'm not seeing clear evidence that one, to the extent it does exist, like the effects are substantially bad or one-sided towards one party, and that the effects are particularly big.
Well, they warp the parties is my problem, right? Maybe this is like
I
forgot that whatever that Noam Chomsky thing is, but it's sort of like when you need money to run campaigns and you need to go get money from people, that you tend to do things that those people with money would like in order to.
But I don't see evidence that
there's sort of like an interplay between the two.
I don't see evidence that effect is particularly big or has particularly bad effects. Is what I'm saying. I also don't see evidence that it like substantially benefits one party over another. But if you don't have that issue, that's fine.
Well, so the example I guess I would use is that you had the Democratic Party that was a lot more like worker friendly until like the 80s and the Reagan years, where that's where like you started having the campaign finance reform litigation.
But how do I know? How on earth do I know if that's from the campaign's finance reform or if they just like responded to like the rate of inflation that we saw in the 70s, or if they were responding to voters' perceptions that were changed by 100 other different things?
Yeah, I guess we could look into some studies for that. I'm not sure.
And then I don't know. So you're saying Democrats got like less worker friendly or whatever, but I don't think they've got. I mean, there are obviously changes in policies, but I don't think they were like substantially or like are substantially less worker friendly nowadays or anything.
You don't think they're less worker friendly compared to like 1970s Democrats?
Not like substantially. Like what's something they did in the 70s that were super worker friendly? I know like Clinton.
That's where, like, you had like the New Deal era politics that was much more worker focused, where unions were very powerful, and then that decline of unions happened largely through like the 70s and started in the 70s, and then I think more or less plateaued somewhere like what the 90s or 2000s or something like that.
And I think
I don't have like all the data offhand. More like
sure. I think like
pull stuff up.
I mean, I think Biden was pretty pro-union, but like, you know, Obama and Clinton were probably not as pro-union as like the 70s Democrats. I think that's probably true. But for, you know, I don't know if how I would measure whether or not that's necessarily from the, you know, political or like the corporate donations or any of that stuff, money in politics, because it could be responding to any number of other things. And I don't know how big the effect size in money in politics would be there. And then two, the base take, okay, is that unions aren't actually pro-worker on net. They help some workers at typically the expense of others. But I think, you know, and there can be anti-growth effects from unions as well. But I don't know. I don't think the Democrats are like substantially more anti-union than back then or anything. Much of the decline was probably due to just shifting what type of work Americans were doing and Republican policies, like, you know, Reagan, whatever the fuck he did with the Patco union and stuff like that.
They got clapped during Reagan, and they like took money to compete and like throughout like the 90s, and then they did that third way shit that they're like, oh, that's how we can succeed now. And like, I think it's definitely like, I don't know. I do disagree with the whole like I'm trying to write sorry, I'm a little tired. There's like that phrase like, you know, it's like so the sentiment's essentially like when you're getting paid by something, it's, you know, it turns out it's really easy to like justify that thing essentially. Or it just sort of turns into that like, oh, we could take money from rich people and we could, you know, like win elections and do stuff. Like, isn't that great? It's win-win. It's like, well, yeah, it's like kind of where your bread's getting buttered, you know? And I think like all this tends to like, you know, I do hate this phrase sort of, but it's from some of the cases where like the justification for limiting money in politics was both to like hedge against corruption and probably more importantly the appearance of corruption, because the appearance of corruption is what leads to that like complete distrust in our electoral system. I don't think either of us would disagree that people tend to think politics is incredibly corrupt right now. I think one of the craziest things I didn't like go look at it. I didn't look at the study. I don't remember, but that the average like voters tend to think that Democrats are more corrupt than Republicans, which is just a crazy thing for me to hear. I'm like, what? When Republicans are obviously incredibly corrupt and Democrats.
What's up, Adam? What's in today's BA numbers? What the what came out today?
Having like all this fucking money sloshing around
from the BA.
You know, I think it was like during like 2010 when they were trying to like primary all these fucking Republicans with like the Tea Party shit. You'd have like you know 70.
Oh yeah, the advanced estimate. Yeah, no, I saw this. I mean,
airwaves,
PC and GDP. I didn't see PC. I did see GDP.
The Project Red Bacteria.
I mean,
experience
not out of line with what I expected.
Sorry, I guess it's kind of rambly, but.
No worries. I mean, I do think the appearance of corruption obviously matters, and I don't know. I don't know the best way to minimize it. I think, you know, doing things like banning congressional stock trading, even if you know, that would probably minimize the appearance of corruption. But I'm honestly, I'm just unsure on how big the like sort of actual effects are on policy from things that people traditionally consider some type of corruption with regards to money in politics.
Yeah.
It just,
I mean, you have like who was like the governor of Virginia got caught like accepting money from some like I think it was like a pharmaceutical. No, he was the CEO of like a tobacco company or something. I can't remember. But like the governor was doing all types of favors, accepting all types of like lavish gifts to the tune of I think like a few $100,000. I think it's Bob McDonald, I think his name was. And then he got like arrested, convicted, and charged with like bribery, and the Supreme Court like overturned like, well, you can't call that bribery. Like he was just doing an official action and then like receiving gifts for it. It's like, what? Isn't that bribery? And I don't know, I think stuff like that just leaves like like one gives politicians like a free fucking pass, and then two like destroys that like, you know, belief that the system is like fair.
Yeah, fair, and yeah. I don't know.
Just, I really hate the fucking Supreme Court. And there's a podcast, or not a podcast guy.
I don't listen to that many, I guess.
There's it's by David Sirota. It's called Master Plan. I was aware of this well before the podcast, so I don't want it to be like a podcast radicalized me. But they have a lot of like more like sort of I guess fluff added to it. Not fluff, but like more detailed reporting than I realized about the influence of a thing called the what's this got in the Powell memo or whatever. Have you ever heard of that or no?
Yeah.
So Lewis Powell, a Supreme Court justice who was nominated by Nixon, wrote like a memo on for his like friend. I think his neighbor was like part of the Chamber of Commerce, and they didn't like all like the lefty bullshit coming out of like academia and politicians. And like, how can we, push back against this? And then you like read his memo, and you're like, oh, that's like all the stuff they did. How they use like their money to like get particularly money in politics friendly like judges on the court like Powell, who voted in that way, and to set up alternatives to academia from like using like charitable contributions. So that's you got like the Cato Institute and all these other random fucking things.
Yeah, and I think that's so like the area where I have the most concern with billionaires, other than they're not donating all their money to effective charities, is like not the sort of direct potential for corruption there or whatever, direct control of politics. It is like the media stuff that they have potentially some out of control over with regards to like funding shit like that, like PragerU, Daily Wire stuff. But I don't know. I'd have to read more into. I don't know how you would regulate some of those things without also regulating speech that we probably want to protect. So
I don't really think it's hard actually. Like did I already get Pisco about this? I think I did a little bit, but I think like people are like, well, money is speech. Like, how do you get around that? I'm like, it's a content neutral restriction, and typically content neutral restrictions on speech, even our current jurisprudence, are a lot more permissible than content based regulation. So if I said like you can't support this candidate, you can't support like a fascist candidate or something like that, right? That's a content based regulation subject to strict scrutiny. But if I'm just like you can only use X amount of dollars. Well, dollars are not like the speech itself. It's a vehicle for speech. It's like the equivalent of a protester with a megaphone. But we don't have a problem telling a protester with a megaphone that you can't use that after 11 o'clock. You can't exceed this many decibels even at this time, right? And you can't do it in this place, right? And I think regulating money in politics is the same fucking thing.
But like, how would you ever like if there's a
how loud?
Like if we have the Cato Institute and they do their libertarian lower all the taxes on the rich or whatever, and they're writing all those think pieces, how would you ever? Are you saying like we would limit the amount that like a billionaire can donate to the Cato Institute?
I think you just like get rid of the charitable write-off for stuff like that. I think that's like, fuck. Are they? I can't remember if they're C3. I think they're C3.
I don't know if Cato is, but I know there are organizations like that.
Yeah, I mean there are C3s. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't really value like think tanks that much.
But I don't know how much it would change the outcomes if you were still able to
the
like.
The answer is like you just so you have stuff like the Brookings Institute, right? That I think the Brookings Institute is either funded by NYU or whatever. Actually, I don't know what the funding mechanism of the Brookings Institute. I guess I should look that up. It's housed at NYU at the very least. But that I think academia serves that purpose of generating like useful information for public discussion, and I think having rich people fund institutions that meet their ideological interests is a way you get, moneyed interests.
I don't know, but Brookings Institute's given me a lot of good stuff. I like the people writing for Brookings Institute.
I don't like there are people like I don't know, like I'll just use George Soros as an example or something. This is where you're like, is he about to say something deeply anti-Semitic? No. Where you have them who like have like real ideological like beliefs, like a belief in like liberal democracy. And when George Soros donates like pro-democracy groups, I'm not going to tell you that those groups are doing bad things or whatever, Like I'm not
sure. I'm just saying like I don't know if academia can fully fill the void that would be left by whatever like think tanks that we want to get rid of, like Brookings.
Let's see how Brookings is structured. I'm actually curious. I know it's housing NYU. I think I just always assumed it was Brookings.
I mean, I don't know how Brookings is structured, but like, I can tell you, like, when I do.
Anyway, right?
Well, I mean, like when I do my some like econ research stuff, like I'm not. It's much harder to find exactly what I'm kind of looking for in academic journals a lot of times, and usually Brookings because they have like economists who write for them that are like actual economists and stuff. They will cite papers in there, and it's a their blogs and stuff, their works, their analyses are typically good summaries of stuff that I want to know about. That's easier than like downloading 10 different papers on.
Fuck, I'm trying to remember that economist's name. He's like a New York Times contributor for a while.
Krugman.
The one who like conservatives really hate.
I'm assuming Paul Krugman, but I don't know.
Yes, Paul Krugman. Yeah, do you like Paul Krugman or not really?
I think he's good. Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah, I like. There's a book I read of his. I was like, oh, this perfectly distills like how I feel about these. He's. I think he's like there are three types of economists. They're like, fuck, what was it? It was like conservative economists, economic conservatives, and then like liberal economists or something like that. And his point is basically you have like people trying to do actual work who have like ideological bents, and then you have like this whole cottage industry of people just saying crazy fucking shit because they're conservative, and then trying to like more or less backwards reason that. So you get like and all this like pollution coming from stuff like the Hoover Institute and whatever the fuck else.
I think the Brookings Institute is mostly people doing like real actual stuff that might have opinions and stuff.
Sorry,
like,
I am not. I don't. I think I just said. I don't know what I said to Brookings, but I wasn't criticizing the Brookings Institute. I think they're fine. But I think just having like more accessible like academia or things that are funded by like colleges and like public grants I think are just will lead to like more democratic and good outcomes than trusting into like billionaires donating money to stuff that is good and not stuff that is bad. Yeah, I don't know. I just the way we end up at this fucked spot, you just ended up with all these reactionary rich people who had just so much fucking power, and they decided they were just going to get behind Donald Trump, and like look how fast things have just like fucking collapsed.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't like the rent seeking there, and there are a lot of billionaires that did that. I'm kind of ambiguous, or I'm not. I'll say I haven't seen strong evidence that like the net effect is particularly either favors one party or the other, or particularly bad. In fact, I think there's some evidence that certain spending tends to be like pro-growth, and certain spending tends to increase political turnover between parties without a clear benefit to one side or the other, or that the effects are particularly big within how it changes parties' policies. But
yeah, I'm not a huge econ person, so you'd probably be maybe more familiar with that than I am. I guess not that I don't care about economics, is that I'm more or less like you should just be kind of ends focused on like what are your social goals, and then come up with economic policy that can make as many of those realized as possible. I don't really I don't like laws or something like that.
I don't like really. I mean, I don't like disagree with that. I think the analysis you're going to have to do to analyze economic policies is going to be you're going to be relying on the work of economists there, and they're the ones that are going to be describing the laws, quote unquote. That
sure. Let me just like flesh that out slightly more unabstracted, right? If I'm like, I want more power between more people, like how do I go about developing economic systems that make, let's say two things. One, I don't want to abolish corporations overnight. That seems kind of crazy. I guess I'm like radical, but not extreme. Maybe I put it that way, or extreme, but not radical. I don't know. Where I think we need to have like dramatic changes to our economic system, but that I think it should be done like kind of fast because this is probably untenable. But I'm not like a revolutionary where like we need to just like kill a bunch of rich people and hang them and then whatever. And I guess I'd say like, how do we distribute power amongst more groups, make more stakeholders in society, more points of like resistance for like, authoritarian stuff. Like you're talking about how billionaires can resist, how billionaires can resist the undermining of Fed independence, which like they're not really. I don't know how much they're really doing that because Jerome Powell retires. Anyway, sorry, that's off topic. Well, Trump gets to choose a successor is all I'm going to say. And and then saying like, okay, economically, like what changes can I make to corporations? For example, like adding in fiduciary duties that involve like duties to like social like well-being and workers in the areas in which you operate or something like that, right? So that one of the interests that you have to like abide by is not just like maximum corporate profit seeking, but maximizing well-being for your workers. You know, that these are more things you need to like keep in mind while pursuing business interests, or like a fiduciary responsibility towards like the environment or whatever.
Sure, I'm simply saying
introduce those things as methods.
I'm simply saying like it's going to be the tool. You're going to rely on the work of economists here to understand the trade-offs involved there.
Yeah, and I don't think there's many. I'm not aware that there's like literally zero economists who say like you can't like I don't know have a more like either unions or sectoral bargaining or stuff that like taxes rich people more and rips their wealth. I'm not aware that there's like no economist saying like you can do that or something. So until
I mean there's plenty who are sure. I mean there's plenty of economists who are more pro-union or more pro-sectoral bargaining and taxing the rich or whatever. I mean the how they tax the rich economists will fight about. Like there's probably not that many economists in support of a wealth tax. It's not a zero amount or anything, but I think it's just important to recognize like when you do those things or whatever, regardless of what position you come to at the end, it's going to be the I say laws economics. You might take some issues with the words law there, but like it's going to be the laws of economics that we describe. It's going to be the empirical literature. It's going to be the models that economists make that are going to be relevant to understanding the trade-offs that you're potentially going to have with any given policy. And you can still come to a position that'll be a positive trade-off for us to do a wealth tax, or that because of work by Emmanuel Saez and Gabriel Zuckman, maybe you think that inequality is really bad and a wealth tax would not harm growth that much or anything, but it's just going to be important to do this.
Yeah, so I have another idea to like expropriate wealth from billionaires. This is a great idea I have. Like, so we nationalize certain industries, right? And then what we do is because like typically when you eminent domain something through the government, you have to pay like fair market value for it, right? So the government, we have them pay fair market value, but we just tax the money we gave them back. It's genius.
Have you heard of a Harburger tax before?
No.
A Harburger tax is no. It's not exactly the same or anything, but it's somewhat similar. A Harburger tax, essentially, it depends what you place it on. So a lot of people like a Harburger tax on like intellectual property. So if you have like a patent on something or whatever, if a drug company has a patent, they self-assess the value of the patent. They say, this is worth $10 billion, and whatever they self-assess the value of the patent to be, they have to pay taxes on, and there's anyone. There's different models, but like either you could say anyone has the ability to buy this patent for $10 billion, or the government has the option to buy this patent for $10 billion. So either they value it at $10 billion and have to pay 5% of that every year or whatever, or when they value it at $10 billion, the government just buys it and then nationalizes it, makes it available to everyone or whatever. People have proposed similar things with just wealth, like billionaires just self-assess their own wealth, and then they have an incentive to, not value it too low, because then other people or the government could buy it, and they have an incentive not to value it too high because they have to pay taxes on it. So it's in theory, like a pretty efficient tax that it lets you. It's because
like typically like when you so like our parents own a bunch of like rental property and stuff, and if they had to like sell those properties, as long as they like reinvest it into like a similar asset type, then they don't have to pay taxes on it, right? I think what we would essentially do is when you force the sale of the property and you make it so like there's virtually nowhere that money can be invested without being subject to taxes, I'm like, it's a genius strategy, because then you just tax it back from them, and then it's like you didn't pay them. And I was like, that's just the type of legal rat fuckery that I feel like the left needs to get more invested in.
True.
Because when I have to read like conservative jurisprudence, it's crazy, dog. It's wild.
I would imagine.
It's like the dumbest experience you'll ever have in your life.
That's why I don't do legal stuff.
Oh, dude, it's like pure brain cancer because I think it's probably less so now, but people used to give like a big pass to like the justices, thinking like they're writing like smartly and shit like that. And then you just read like an Anton Scalia opinion, like this guy's kind of dumb, right? Like there's an opinion where Clarence Thomas, regardless how you feel about affirmative actions and the affirmative action decision where they overturn that or whatever, and he's just like the Freedmen's Bureau was not for black people. It's like okay, Clarence.
Yeah, I saw there was a it was either I think it was Thomas. It might not have been Thomas who like wrote that footnote on the tariff ruling today that was like, well, I say duty because actually tax used to be understood to not include tariffs, and therefore more accurate to say duty. And you know, when the fucking when we were complaining about taxation without representation, we wanted to reserve the right for the British to control export and import tariffs. It's like, yeah,
tariffs without representation are fine, actually.
Yeah, I know.
That's
It's
great.
like,
I didn't read that. Oh fuck, dude! What a guy! What a gangster, dude.
Yeah.
Clarence Thomas solo concurrent dissents or concurrences are a fucking thing to behold, because they're like a window into like pure reactionary politics in a way that is just like so warped and perverted. It's something. He's a crazy little guy. It's kind of funny because like, have you read like case excerpts in law school? So typically, like you'll only get like small segments, and they're like, "This is what you should distill from this thing, right?" But if you read like the larger portions of opinions, or like you start reading the dissents too, and sometimes you're just like, "Man, these people are dumb as fucking shit." Like a John Roberts opinion is like the dumbest thing you'll ever read. Like it's like it has like the cadence of logic, but not the substance. That's super fun. Where he's just saying things, and you're like, "I don't know if that's true." I feel like we'll know the answer to that. My favorite thing is where they just like assume things that like we have information for or whatever. Sorry, I guess a better one would be like when they gutted the Voting Rights Act in Shelby County. He's like, well, we don't really need that anymore because of black voting age population. It's like black voting voter registration is like approaching that of white voter participation. It's like, do you notice the word? No, we're about to get to the stupid part. It's like, first of all, using the word approach, meaning not at parity yet. Second of all, they used the wrong like data set.
Incredible.
And the data set, they used the wrong data set, and the data set they used included illegals. And the problem is illegals can't register to vote. So you have like Hispanic white people who are here illegally, who are like bringing down the number of white people registered to vote.
Yeah.
Well, there's way less black Hispanic people here, so that number is not bringing them down proportionally as much. And when you adjust for that, the gap is quite a bit larger.
Incredible. Let's fucking go.
And I got to argue with one of my law professors, and I was like, like this type of shit. I was like, they're stupid. And she goes, well, do you think he would have changed his mind if he had like used the right data? And I was like, well, no, because my argument is he's an ideologue. She goes, so what does it really matter? I'm like, well,
true.
I was like, the point is they're like lazy hacks and they don't actually care. And I'm using this as an example of like very convenient reasoning and them being sloppy, lazy, and bad because they don't care about this. And she goes, well, the right data, he wouldn't have changed his mind anyway. And I'm like, well, yeah, but that's my point. You're taking my point.
Mm-hmm.
you fucking twat. God damn it. I hated that one so much.
Okay. I gotta, I think I'm gonna do one more thing on my stream and then probably head to bed or something. So, but I appreciate talking. Yeah.
Like streaming or something?
You don't know our streaming?
Yeah, no problem, man. You have a good one. Oh, I don't care. I don't hide anything. I just didn't know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was invited to talk to
It sounded familiar though.
the other dude, the LSP, because he was streaming too or whatever he wanted to talk and stream. So, but yeah.
Oh, well, I didn't mean to interrupt your conversation by spurring out over random bullshit.
Oh, no worries. You were good. Yeah. All right.
You have a wonderful night.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. Please should stop responding to calls from people above a certain net worth. This is true. Let's go. I just think they should lower their net worth by donating all to the Shrimp Power Project and maybe, the Maybe just farm kind. I'm gonna read how Canadian became Canadian. Jesus, how Canada became poorer than Alabama. I don't know what that is. If you send it to me, I can look at it. But aren't you the one always yelling at being easy money about how actually GDP per capita is actually a bad measure? And bro, you can't be serious. You can't seriously think that people in Mississippi feel. And it's like you never understand the points I'm making about that stuff. If you send it, I can look at it at least. That article I put on stream. What? Oh, like forever ago. By forever, I mean like 3 hours ago. Okay, while that's loading, Dominic laid out 2 possible paths to closing a $5.4 billion budget gap next year, both of which involve tax hikes. The first, his preferred method, would include a personal income tax rate hike of 2 percentage points on people making over $1 million annually, as well as a corporate tax hike. The second, which he described as a last resort option, would include a 9.5% increase in the overall property tax rate in New York City. Those figures shouldn't be understood in the same way. The Mondami has at times described his income tax proposal as a 2% increase. I'm asking for a 2% raise in personal income taxes on the most affluent New Yorkers, he said, on Tin Cup Day. What the fuck? It would in fact be an increase of 2 percentage points, a roughly 52% increase in what New Yorkers are paying in city income tax. Per city budget officials, the city income tax rate would rise from 3.88% to 5.88% under Mondami's millionaire tax proposal. Mondami has at other times described it more clearly. During a campaign, he called for a new flat 2% tax on people making over $1 million or more annually, which would equate to paying $20,000 more in taxes for those who make exactly $1 million. What's up north? Real. Property tax rates vary, but Mondami has proposed raising the city's average rate from 12.28% to 13.45%, according to his financial plan. The confusion is perhaps unintentional, but it does have the effect of minimizing the tax on the rich Mondami is proposing. Come on, it's just 2%, no big deal. Well, the higher 9.5% figure inflates the threat of higher property taxes. Watch out, Kathy Hochul. People are going to be pissed about this. Both serve Mondami's political narrative. A spokesperson for City Hall did not comment when asked if the alternative tax hike pitches have been misleading, but the mayor's office has characterized an additional 2% tax for a class already facing combined city, state, and federal tax rate of 45% as relatively small. Anna Chimpenny, vice president for research at Fiscal Watchdog Group, Citizens Budget Commission, said that she didn't see a problem in how Mondami's presented a tax proposals, noting that the nuances to how the city's property tax is assessed could make it simply described as a 9.5% increase. You got to post your stolen. Oh, you got your post stolen, and your followers got 10x the interactions on Instagram. Wait, what? Your post got stolen? Do you mean the fight? Because UFA's reposted the fight and stuff. And Destiny did on his Instagram too, I think. Libertarian post? Oh, yeah, I saw it on I saw someone post it on YouTube. I never saw anyone post it on Instagram. Hold on, send me the Instagram link if you meant Instagram. Removed for sensational headline. Incredible. What do you think of immigration in Canada? I don't know enough about it. Oh, was YouTube low? I didn't. I don't use Instagram. I thought I was. No, I saw Hamsters post. Sorry, I'm retarded. No worries. I saw Hamsters just post. Post this screenshot, which is the YouTube community post thing. Got 6 point. My tweet has like it has 2K likes on Twitter. It has 6.4K likes on YouTube, and apparently they're being mean to him in the comments. I don't know who this guy is. Loved it. What the fuck? This looks like total fucking brain rot. Do you think we should go to war for Iran? Not ideally. Is that non-fawn? I comment this on a lot of posts with me in it because I'm funny like that. They are. They're getting mad at him in the replies. Thanks for the sub, Rebirth of Leo Lee Jendi. I appreciate it. Okay, I don't know if I care to read this whole thing or anything. Is this just saying GDP per capita is higher in Alabama than Canada? That's not particularly surprising. It's higher than Quebec and these places. Where it's just a Canada average. Do they even have that? Calculate GDP per capita in simple terms, the size of the Canadian economy in a given year divided by the population. The same was done for Alabama after adjusting for foreign exchange and some cost differences in both countries. The average for Canada's 10 provinces is estimated at 55,000 in 2022 USD. The same as Alabama. Shortly after the IMF found Canada actually fallen behind the southern state. I just want a UMF. That's all I ask, please. What is a UMF? Reflects a message being censored. Dude, I don't know what it is. Because I literally have the moderation turned off. Okay, what did this guy send me? This looks like a total slop thing. Oh my god.
First Amendment rights was asinine, to say the least. There was no precedent for it. So are under wide-ranging and powerful attack, not by communist or other conspiracy, but by misguided individuals parroting one another and unwittingly ineptitude to consume a variety of viewpoints. But the idea that people in the media promoting topics related to big business and free enterprise.
Okay. I don't know what I'm supposed to take away from this easy money. Not particularly surprising to me. US is typically pretty good at having very strong growth. You're the one always yelling to me about why GDP per capita actually is meaningless. I don't think you'd say it's meaningless, to be fair. But you're yelling at me about it not being good. Okay, one last thing. Luckily, it is an geopolitical interest to end the Iranian regime. All I want is authorization of military force to conduct war. Oh, yeah, okay. AMF, yeah, sure, yeah. I will not take the Bernanke hate, bro. Mike Fellman, my goat. Okay. Harper's fully repaid of interest. That was some of the 2008 bailout bill that we passed or whatever. Bailout is kind of a harsh word to use there, considering fully repaid with interest. But it was like preferential, obviously. Was below fair market interest. All emergency lending was except the auto bailout. Estimates which put the total size of the bailout above a few $1 trillion engage in accounting games. They count short-term credit facilities at the Fed, which got rolled over as multiple loans, e.g. $1 billion discount window loan rolled over 4 times to count as $4 billion instead of $1 billion. Gross versus net lending. It's the net that matters. And then, I don't know who this dude is. Will not take the hate. Okay, economists still smugly ask us to believe trillions in direct government support wasn't a bailout. And then it just cites a paper from the Fed or whatever. Direct government support for the U.S. financial sector through the form of capital injections, treasury lending, asset purchases, government guarantees, and unusual central bank support and liquidity provisions. Direct support was 12.6 trillion. He literally, this paper literally does exactly what Mike Phelan was talking about just like double. I say, he's friends with Matt Stoller. Oh boy, I say double counting. Basically double counting loans. Technically, it's just gross lending. And that's not totally, there are cases in which it might make sense to look at gross lending, but gross lending does not represent the net cost because it's gross. It's not net. David, even the Fed paper admits that it's dealing with a gross and not net number, and the number includes financial guarantees which were never tapped. It's also unclear if the 12.6 trillion includes stuff like lost economic output from the recession, lost stock market value, which the paper also discusses. Estimate would be much smaller if subsequent repayments, recovery rates on asset purchases, and other such factors were netted out of a gross number to arrive at the realized net fiscal direct cost. But for, and then this as well, the 12.6 trillion cost estimated includes government guarantees that were not tapped to their full extent. Oh my God. Kaneko said Mike Feldman hasn't blocked. That's not that surprising. They seem like the type that would potentially get involved in some spats like that. I will not take the 2008 slop. Okay. We should have done more. We should have done, what's it say, 12 trillion? We should have done 24 trillion. Okay. Jesus. Okay. I don't have anything else interesting to do. You cannot get me to watch Hasan and Adam Mockler. You cannot get me to watch Hutchin Pisco. You cannot get me to talk about, I'm not talking about that. I don't care. Nope. Not doing it. I set up a debate with the Andrew guy from, hold on. Just then. A quick panel. About the Destiny free speech thing. I don't care to react to that right now. I watched a little bit of it.
Does Mike Pence support
With not this dude. Wait, maybe it is this dude?
About so it's because we already
This dude. This dude talked to Adam Mockler and Jubilee, and he also talked to Adam and Destiny at the UFA thing. And I think it was about econ stuff. And Destiny and Adam, I feel like did not do a great job at defending the superiority of Kamala's economic policy and stuff. What's up, Isaac?
Okay, so the first thing I want to say,
And I think here, I forget what they talk about, but I think he did a good job here. He seems like a pretty smart dude.
is you mentioned Howard Stern. I think there's some really important context to note when we
market for 2016 studies saying that when immigrants move into the country that they are
Oh, they're talking about immigration here. And
again, the studies cause a net harm on the economic future.
What's your prescription? You want no legal immigrants or illegal
No, I'm talking
immigrants?
about the policy that you're trying to back is going. You have mass economists like Milton Friedman, and
It's not true.
Yes, it is.
You've been animated by the
see, look, he named Milton Friedman. Okay, that's how you tell he's smart. Anyway, I set up a debate with him. It's like in 2 weeks from now, though. It's quite a bit of ways. Other than that, we're going to be chilling. We're going to be doing econ stuff. There's a debate that might happen this weekend about the tariffs and the tariff refund stuff and tariff incidents that with the Twitter loser who's like a Pisco reply guy. So that might happen. Other than that, though, head over to, oh man, I don't have many good options here. Milton Friedman is smarter than Adam Mockler. Milton Friedman is definitely a pretty smart dude. That's not surprising. Head over to fucking straight rate. Fuck it. Okay, that might be the best option I got. Okay. All right. Well, appreciate it. Love stream. Love the guys watching the stream. I will probably stream again tomorrow. Probably. Love you guys. Appreciate it.